official pistol, the guns is drawn. Yeah! When you pray for the rain, you gotta deal with the mud. And when you pray for the pain, you gotta deal with the blood. You ain't capable of hate if you ain't able to love. But it get muddy in the middle, so I stay with the snub. And I'm official pistol till the veins stop running. You in hell and it's hot when them trains stop running. And you don't have a choice when the game start dumbing. And your physical is still, but your brain start running. Why'd I let them eat? Well, I must have been out of it. Like walking the portal inside of being John Malkovich. Y'all are talking loud, but you should just turn it down a bit. Your hands over your head like you was reading a counterfeit. And not a rhyme over nothing if it don't sound sick. And all of y'all motherfuckers bite is like a brown pit. Clap at you like you wearing cap and gown shit. A bunch of Siciliano shoot at you, it's a crown vic. I don't know you and you don't know me. We should go separate ways, I'ma keep it OG. Come on, I don't know you and you don't know me. You should go that way, I'ma keep it OG. Young bulls out here think that rapping is dead. Glorifying dirt bags and they trapping instead. I'ma resurrect hard body rap from the dead. Crucify him like Christ, put a rack on his head. I've been here for 20 years and y'all have been here for 2 days. Ain't nobody talking to you dipping in the Kool-Aid. Razor under the tongue, I cut you like a school day. Blood spilling high definition like a Blu-ray. The bullets in this motherfucker small, but the shotty big. Recoil make you kick back like Karate Kid. I ain't trying to fend a motherfucker, but I probably did. I ain't playing around, motherfucker, something gotta give. I don't give a fuck money, I will get your nana hit. Vinny a gorilla, I will feed you a banana clip. Only way to get them dirty is to get your hands in it. And I don't play politics, I was never a fan of it. I don't know you, and you don't know me. We should go separate ways, I'ma keep it OG. Come on, I don't know you, and you don't know me. You should go that way, I'ma keep it OG.
I've been fucking niggas since fifth grade. Really ain't no difference if that nigga gay.
Blood satellite.
Woo!
Hey, buddy. Hello.
Look you right where you belong.
Yeah,
right
I'm here.
there on the right.
We're only 20 minutes late, folks. I'm sorry.
I wasn't gonna blame you, but it is your fault. How do I?
It
do
is my
this?
fault.
There's a good way to. There we go.
There we go.
Now we're good. We got to make up for lost ass time. What do we got going here? Let's check our sound effects. Did you hear that?
No, I didn't hear anything.
You didn't hear any.
It's a good thing we checked. How else are you going to call me gay?
Yeah, hold on. Hold the fort. How do I do this? We didn't do anything before this. Okay.
No.
Okay. Wait.
I had to put my kids to bed and I was having
likely fucking story.
Internet trouble. My stupid fucking kids.
Voice.
Brrrap!
Okay, let me try this again.
There we go. There we go.
Hey, you heard it. Good.
Yeah,
now,
that was. There we go. We're good.
Gay!
For those who aren't to know, that was Mr. Warren Baylog.
Is that Warren Baylog?
Who may come up a bit later. All right.
Mm.
By the way, this is a new mic. How do I sound? How's my voice? Is it too low?
sound
too
good.
high? Yeah.
No, you sound good. You sound good.
I got the industry standard for the show that demands it.
Yeah.
How do I sound right now? I'm crowding the mic. Do I
That
sound
was horrible? This is awful. It's
That's
comp
awful?
to fuck. Yeah, that's bad.
I'm starting references right up. What I was doing was what we call the Sven, where you really just you start making out with the mic. I don't know how he does it. You actually have to go into the settings and fuck with it to put your fucking entire face to absorb the mic like the way he does it.
It's gotta be the gain somewhere in there.
It'll take a man 2 hours to figure out how to do something that fucked up.
I'm getting called in the chat here that we haven't said the N-word yet.
Okay, well, we are on YouTube, so we are.
Anyways, did you hear about China though? This place is it's the fucking worst. Everything is shit. People are fucking each other, eating dogs and rats, cooking them alive for the fucking adrenochrome. But no, it's fantastic though. The housing is cheap and labor.
Just for the record, for the folks at home, he is answering a comment from Homer. sucks. Loop yourself. How much it sucks to live in China, and tell you how awesome China is. Have you gotten to that part yet?
Yes.
How awesome China? Hey, am I just slow? Is my internet slow here? Is everything coming through? Is it you or what?
No, it's me. It's me.
Okay, good. All right, so we got
all me, baby.
4 minutes in, no N-word. Boom. We got Sunflower Society here going Sneed. RIP your channel, because they're going to start turning us against each other as they are wont to do.
Good.
Now, I got something here I need your help with. I got a real bad idea cooking, and I just want to see if this works. I haven't really tested this out before. So what I'm going to do is, here we go. This, yeah. So I got a Wacom tablet. And some very enterprising
a Wacom.
Yeah, some anime freaks gave me some ideas on what program I should use. And I got one here. I think it's called Krita. It sounds sexual. I'm not a huge fan of that. How can we make an app named Secrete? No, thank you. All right. So really this unlocks a whole new dimension of the stream. There's a lot of people who are tuning in looking for NJP stuff. They're looking for the TRS stuff. This is Drawing Corner. We're going to start with Drawing Corner. So maybe people could send some requests. And while I'm doing this, I'm going to start drawing an idea I had. It's called Basket Tall. It came to me in a thought. I want you to just briefly tell the story. Tell the folks at home how your wife drove into a well. Go.
Oh, no. So the story goes, my wife drove into a well. I'm not really sure. I think in her defense, she was trying to take the kids out somewhere and they were giving her a hard time. And she was turned around to look out the back, but was also yelling at them. And we have a long, narrow driveway and the wellhead is quite close. So she hit it, knocked the top cap off. Half of it went into the well and the tire went down into the well. And thankfully, my neighbor is an absolute peach. And he came, because I was at work, he came over and helped her jack it up and get it out of there. All right,
so let's just rewind here, because I'm hearing this. I'm the audience surrogate right now, okay? We're talking a well. Every well looks the same. This is a well from the Ring, essentially. There's something that pops out of the ground that... Yes. So she drove up and over, and it looks like she might, from the photo I saw, she cracked the top of it. Concrete is what we're talking about here.
Yeah, it's a big dug well. So it's like the concrete wellhead is about, like, it's a foot off the ground. It's about maybe 3 feet wide. So she's lucky she didn't go any further into it, because we did take the car to the dealership, which is where we go, and it's fine. We actually it just damaged the rim. We have to get 2 new tires and replace a rim, and there's no other damage, so we're good.
I don't know why this thing is fucking lagging real bad here. Come on.
Me or the Wacom?
The Wacom. So I'm doing Basket Tall. It's a game I invented.
Can I piss on the chat for just a second? Yeah. We never have more than like 12 people watching this stream. There's way more people, and they seem really aggressive. I feel like we're getting shaken down here.
All right, so this is Basket Tall. It's a game I invented where you dunk a tall guy.
Basket Tall? All right.
Yeah, it's called Basket Tall.
I like it.
All right, so what are they? I haven't been paying attention. Do they like it? Do they like my bit, my idea?
I think we have NJP fags in the chat. That's just a theory of mine.
Whoa.
I've been wrong before.
No, I see some guys
rarely. Yeah, Laughing Man's in there.
I was listening to an episode. Here we go. I was listening to an episode of yours from 2021, and it is extremely correct about NJP. Now, that could be a trap, because I don't know what I said in 2021.
Yes. This is how it starts. They're like, hey, very good friends, Dimes and Judas. Let's hear what you have to say.
People coming out the gate trying to be my friend, I'm always suspicious of. There's no reason to be my friend.
You do not like us, okay?
Hey Pig seething in the chat. I hope no one's seething. They're going to feel real fucking stupid when I cry. All right. So I guess we'll get to it now. So what we're going to discuss here, and there's a lot we could discuss. There's a lot that I don't want to discuss. There's been some shows and some individuals who've discussed the collapse of NJP, the National Justice Party, at length. I think one of them is even live right now. This show called The Absolute State of White Nationalism. I've listened to it before. It wasn't planned to coincide with theirs, but it is going. We had a comment here. Someone, oh, here we go. This brings attention to this, saying Full House did a post-mortem with McKevitt a couple weeks ago. I'm sure they did. I would recommend people listen to that. There's a lot of good stuff out there covering this. But I thought I would just do a live stream with you. And the original plan was to invite a whole lot of people on. We were going to have a good friend of the show, a friend of mine, Johnny Monoxide, on. But I do want to have Johnny Monoxide on, but I didn't. He's been doing a tour of this stuff.
Yeah, of course.
And I think he and I can talk about a whole bunch of stuff. I'm planning on going on Paranormies, talking about some Columbine shit. And, I don't want to just like wring that negativity out of him. And there's a lot of people who have contacted us in private messages and in various forums who have, over the months and years, have given sort of insider info on NJP. And I didn't want to invite them on because, as far as I know, there's still NDAs in play. I don't want to get anyone in trouble. I don't want anyone getting burned for saying the wrong thing. So I thought it, just to be safe, and you and I, we know a thing or two about doing a fucking show. And there's some people, some friends of ours, some people I like who might very well still be at NJP, and I don't want to rope them in and cause a big thing. However, if anyone is still in NJP or hates NJP, leave a comment. We'll be shining a light on them. This is an open forum. Anything we say, feel free to chime in. I'm going to, when I cite some sources and cite some things that have been told to me, I might not give their full names. You're just going to have to deal with that. But a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about has been rumored. It's an open secret. I'm not really going to be breaking any news on this stream. But yeah, I thought we could get right to it. I thought a good way to start would be I want to start out the right way. Not just you. Do you know much about the NJP? You know a lot now, but did you go deep with the rightstuff.biz with any
Never.
of these guys?
I was as proud of never getting involved with them as I was of never having a Twitter account. To me, they never seemed serious. Although I heard third hand about a lot of the stuff they did, like some of the fundraising they did in Palestine, American Palestine. And I thought that was neat. I thought they did some neat stuff. But just from the physiognomy of everybody involved and from hearing their voices and the way that they talk, I just never liked them. So, and to the point that I don't even really understand why other people like them. But me, I don't get involved in anything. I'm kind of an outsider, ironically, even though I'm here on the show. So
the typical thing would be, you don't know about a guy. I explain to you in 5 seconds who he is. You're like, I don't like him. Fuck him.
Yeah, that's me.
Burn him
I don't
at
like
the
anybody.
stake. You're out there trying to burn everyone in the whole scene. That's why we like you. And you know what? More often than not, you've been right. And I just want to call that out because you've been correct about a lot of things with your, what would we call it? Just a black hole of violent negativity.
Yeah.
But vindicated time and time again.
You'd be surprised how often that works, just hating things without knowing anything about them. Because most things are shit, so it works.
Yeah. So I thought I would share my story too, that just to know where we're coming from, because I don't want people to get the wrong idea. And this might be boring to some people. They want to get to the dirt. But I just want to give the context and set the stage that for me, like a lot of people, I was a big fan of TRS. And there's a lot by TRS, the rightstuff.biz, the Daily Show, all the affiliated shows, Fash the Nation, all that. And there's a great number of our listeners and members of our community that were also former fans to various capacities. Some of them were former pool party members, former pay pigs or pay chads, as they call them. There's actually a lot of people who have some experience with NJP who are within our sphere. And a lot of them will say, man, they got into everything because of that show. That was their inlet. Some people, it's Jordan Peterson. Some people, it's Stefan Molyneux. But a lot of people came in through that show. And just so people don't know, a lot of younger people might not know what it was like here a few years ago, but like it's hard to explain how big the Right Stuff was. It still kind of is. It's like the Daily Stormer. The Daily Stormer is not as big as
Yeah.
it was, but it's still like I was on the UN's review the other day, and he was, for some godforsaken reason, sharing his traffic analytics. Typical Ron Unz move, giving his passwords out. But he was comparing himself to like Daily Stormer, which still gets like 1 million fucking views a month, something crazy like that. And it's been fucking, sword you can get to get it off the web, and it's still doing fine. Same thing with TRS, but it was way bigger. Like I remember a time when something like Fash the Nation was like #1 on Google on iTunes, right?
Yeah.
Could not even thinkable now. But I remember a lot of people have fond memories of that show, of these individuals that we're going to talk about. I have fond memories of playing Fallout 4 and listening to this show. That's a bit of information you probably didn't need to know, and a lot of people are going to leave. But I like the show. So just to say that this isn't coming from a position of I always hated these motherfuckers. I'm not a hater. I don't even think you're a hater. This isn't like I've been seething in the corner waiting for this to happen, because some people do. Some people have never liked them and have been counting the days. Some people have a personal issue with some of them. I don't. That's not where any of this is coming from.
I did get a little hate train rolling in the past 9 months, but that was really just because Tony personally was an asshole to me. He kept coming in and fucking with me, and I kept yelling at him, and he was just mean. He's just a rude dude. So
can we go to, so my recollection was, okay, let me just set the stage there, was that
he keeps telling me I'm gay for not liking electric cars. Like, what a thing to fight about. Fuck.
Which is an inversion of what you typically hear.
Yeah, it's the other way around, Tony. Come on.
Yeah, it was like, but that was one of those things where like the word came down on their side of things. Like, we're pro electric cars now. Then one day everybody is, in a weird way.
Yeah.
Like people, they all had the same fucking script. And like you never, but yeah, that was the situation and we had some listeners who were existing members of the NJP and had the little icon in their names. One individual who I like George R. Martin, guys like that. I still talk to Elliot from time to time.
Those guys are cool.
I like them, and so, but there was a ban wave that happened in our community because this is what kind of I disagreed with NJP on certain topics. Not enough to cause a fuss, but I disagree on them. But what really burned me was they did this thing where if there was ever like a criticism of NJP, or if they saw Johnny Monoxide around, they would send up a signal flare and 5 more guys would get added in. Like there's a secret chat where they coordinate these raids. Yeah. And I thought that was really gay, annoying shit.
Very
and it
gay.
Happened a few times. And then
at least 5 times. Yeah.
a few of our mods just, clean sweep, get all the NJP people out, which I didn't want to have to resort to that, but.
And that wasn't the first time. Like, we let that slide for almost the whole year. And it was just a few months ago in the final wave. I think it was Laughing Man just went through and said, you know what? Fuck it. Any one of you who's ever been associated with NJP, you're fucking gone. Like 25 guys were gone in a day. And it sucks that it had to come to that. But it's like, come on, guys. I don't get it, because like you're a reasonable guy most of the time. And then Tony or some other fag comes in here and wants to talk about walkable cities. And suddenly you've brigaded the whole place. It's like Reddit tier shit. Come on.
And there's 2 reasons why I was very soft on that sort of thing. One was because there's some genuine people that I liked that were part of NJP. The second was that I had a policy, and I still do to an extent, where I don't like to just shit talk any group or individual that is public with their identity and is advocating for, white identity rights or white nationalism, things that can really fuck your life up. People who put everything on the line to advocate for what they believe in. It's hard. If it was easy, everyone would do it. And some people that are thrust into that and they don't want to. Some people choose that. It doesn't matter. I got a policy where I won't be the first to start a fight with those people, and I'll usually defend them. I always got Thomas 777 in the back of my head. I got these like old heads, who are always talking like there's too much drama. There's too much shit talking. Why are we always stabbing each other in the back? I agree. So that is also to add the context that I'm not the guy who's out here starting this shit. because it might seem that we're jumping on this now, but really I didn't want to, if they succeeded, great. Maybe they could have been something.
Yeah.
What did we know what was going on behind the scenes, right? But and I said the same thing for a while about even America First, and that really, the reason that sometimes I still keep that door open is because there's still good people in that group. And there's a lot of people who are flaking off right now. And they've been flaking off members for months and months. And they're wondering where to go. They were true believers in this group. And what I don't want to do is have people say, you guys were fucking morons for being a part of that. You deserve this. Screw you. Haha. I was like, no, they're looking for a home. They believed in something. And they, for some reason, thought they believed the hype that we're the only game in town. But I always want to keep a door open for those people. There's good people in there, good, hardworking. There's probably still some blue collar people. I don't know why you would, given what the fuck Sven has said, but you know what? That's what I'm just trying to do an olive branch. Like, you know what? You're not a piece of shit for going along with it for this long. That's just what I wanted to establish.
I do think that's more true of NJP guys than of America First. Like I really do think the upper branches of America First are just gay pedophiles and degenerates and drug abusers. I really don't think they're even right wingers, to be totally honest. But I guess that's just the upper group, maybe. But yeah, the NJP. I never met any of the NJP guys who were just followers or pay pigs who weren't just dudes. It was just frustrating when they would buy into the line and act like worker drones. But I mean, aside from that, they're not bad guys. So.
Well, and like I said, the entire time we were getting information fed to us behind the scenes. So when like Mike Enoch gets up in that barn and says that we have more members than ever before, I know that's not true. Everyone kind of knows that's not true. So you start seeing the lies, and the lies start to compound. And the issue with the NJP was there's so many lies compounded. Here's a fun thing. So NJP and TRS broadly have a policy of not talking about drama, or so they say. They get Alex McNabb to go on some fucking bullshit platform, get laughed off, and he addresses the drama. He's like a neutered attack dog, right?
Yeah.
But their thing is just ignore it, don't talk about it. But then over time, there's just so many things you're not allowed to talk about. It becomes suspicious.
Yeah.
Like over the years, there's like 12 things that you're not allowed to talk about. And people notice, like, wow, there's a huge list of things I'm not allowed to talk about, or I get banned, chastised, or my money taken. So you start noticing that pile up. But wow, this doesn't sound like a sensible organization run by adult men. This sounds like gay nonsense. Anyway, I'm really trying not to. Okay, this is why I wanted to start with the positives. I wanted to start by going into the stuff I liked. I want to go into the people I like, and I want to go into that. You're not a bad person if you even still listen. Although I don't know why you would, because they seem to all hate their fucking lives right now. You know what I mean? Like, and that's everyone who has a show. We just covered up very well because we're great actors, and we're in Canada where it's this or the government suicides you. I don't know.
Well, there's also no stakes for us. I mean, you obviously you do all the editing for our show.
Sorry, did you cut out there? Or is that me? You just might have cut out there, unless. Let me know if Judas cut out there, if it's just on my end. It's hard to tell. Okay. Is it just Judas's or on cut? I don't know what's going on here. All right, let me know in the chat if you can still hear me or if it's something on my end. Okay, he cut out. Okay, I'll keep going. Just to let people know, Judas has been having problems with his internet. He lives out in the fucking woods. That's why we were late, because he was getting that set up. He might come in and come out. I'm going to try and prioritize his rants when he does have internet available. Okay, now it's just me. Sure. Okay. Judas coin plummeting. You hate to see it, but I got diamond hands on Judas coin. All right, so that was just it's over. It's always been over. I'm going to go into some stuff here. I'm going to get Judas to go back into his stuff when he gets back, but there's a couple of things I just wanted to share. Now, like I said, there's other shows Oh, here we go. Later 1975, his wife hit the internet. You know, it's funny in the chat because everyone you hear the news, you get the fucking photos posted of the wheel well into a well, and people are torn. As a man, you're torn. On one hand, you want to make fun of a woman driver moment. On the other hand, you want to fix a car problem. And we were just stuck in that dialectic for the better part of the day. So get going here. I'm going to share my screen. How do we do this? Let's get to the real reason that all of this is happening. Boom. This really says it all, I think. Oh, wait, here we go. Judas
Fuck. Am I back?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, you got us.
Jesus Christ.
We're going into this is what I could be one NJP who we're looking at is Tony Hoveder on the left for the folks listening to the audio version. That's Mike Enoch on the right. The collected English works of Alexander Dugin. Once again, Dugin has struck again. This is kind of a running joke that like people show this photo around to make light of it, but there is something to the story here that there was some kind of intrusion in the NJP. And I'm going to go just based off of what I've been told from people behind the scenes. Again, take it for what it's worth. The story that I understood, and this is my feeling about how they started, they were really just more racist libertarians, right? Which I think is actually more of an honest identity than this sort of like German idealist, nationalist, socialist thing they became. Like being a libertarian is more American. Just being a racist libertarian would have great popularity on the right. In fact, I'm going to say another nice thing. Get ready for this shit. Like Enoch, I think if you plugged him into any media machine, any media engine, he could personality. I think he's got the voice. I think he's got the charisma. I think he's got the mind for that. Like he could be a Rush Limbaugh.
He's
type
really quick-witted. Yeah.
In more ways than one, obviously. But like, there's nothing about him as a talent, but that would prohibit him from that. The issue is that over time, the rightstuff.biz largely, I think, became infiltrated by a certain type of ideology. Now, Tony Hoveder, you'll see here, he came from the Traditional Workers' Party, as did Eric Stryker. Traditional Workers' Party, we mentioned them on the show before. They're basically what you would call, they don't like to use this word, but it's a Nazbol party. The only person I know that actually unironically calls themselves a Nazbol is Alexander Dugin. He calls himself a national Bolshevik in a lot of his writings. And maybe that's just a loose translation that Arctos did, but we'll all call each other Nazbols as an insult. Like it's a red-brown alliance, which is an even grosser term that I don't like, red-brown alliance. But it's kind of like anytime you hear like communist shit, but waving a Nazi flag, that's kind of what that is. Mm-hmm. And that's why anytime you hear like far-right people start talking about workers of the world unite, a lot of 20th century Marxist stuff, that's where that is. And that's what a lot of Eric Stryker is bringing to the table. That's what a lot of Tony Hoveder, I believe, was bringing to the table. Now, he wasn't very public facing in a lot of stuff. He was more administrative, but both came from this party that was all about that. That was also Matthew Heimbach's group. Yeah. Matt Heimbach, who has had so many second, third, fourth chances, and he just gets more and more left every time. He's just a straight up communist now.
Old ham back. Old fucking ham sandwich.
Yeah. Let me just see here. Okay, we got soy boy nationalism. Just a comment there.
Nice.
Just let people know, sometimes the comments on our end are a bit late. So if we get your comment a couple minutes later, that's why. But that's the story. People saw the narrative on the rightstuff.biz change. Some people love that because it added sort of an intellectual flair instead of just complaining about black people and complaining about Jews. And I actually don't hate that. And for the record, we've spoken very kindly on Eric Stryker in the past, believe it or not. Not often, but I took his side on his debate against Destiny about music. Like, who gives a shit? But at least that's something, right? And we'd said nice things about them in the past. And I don't hate weird fucking intellectual stuff. But people I think started to see that things got a little bit confused over time. So I'm going to, where's the next one? Here's another thing. So I'm just gonna. This is a Telegram post that I think articulates where the party started to end up as it started to drift more into kind of stranger intellectual territory. Well, the main show, The Daily Show, was still, news analysis and jokes. They wanted to be like a morning zoo type show, like an Opie and Anthony type show. But according to Sven, he hated this the entire time. But we've mentioned this debate a lot before. This debate specifically, there was one debate between Warren Balog, who was a founding member of the National Justice Party, I believe, and Mike Enoch, ostensibly was the chairman of the whole thing. The debate was, is it more important to be pro-white or anti-Semitic? Now, I'm just going to read out what he says here. He says, in the past, I took the controversial opinion that than pro-white. I stand by this opinion, and I further predict that in the next 5 years, we will see the rise of an explicitly pro-white, Jew-controlled form of politics. All the signs are there, and it's almost a political inevitability, given the fact that whites are openly under attack everywhere, and as Tucker recently said, a backlash leading to white identity politics will emerge. Now, here's the thing. There's actually a germ of truth in there.
He's right. He's actually right. He's absolutely right about that.
He is true. And we are seeing that currently. And people have messaged me like, oh, what's going on? What do we do about this? But I still think that given this choice, you still need to be pro-white because
yes.
if you are just anti-Semitic first, and then you see Jews become pro-white, it's very likely you'll eventually become anti-white. That's what we start to see if you get into that sphere. And that's one thing that I also noticed over time at TRS and NJP is they had nothing but hostility towards white people. Now, people throw their hands up, point their fucking pistolas at me, saying, what the fuck are you talking about? They're anti-white. I stand by that. There's been so much anti-white shit that's coming out of their fucking mouths over the past couple years.
Sven is openly anti-white.
Like Sven can suck a fat dick.
Yeah,
that piece
Sven's
of
a
shit.
piece of shit. Yeah.
I was gonna wait another 20 minutes before I got it. I'm coming in hot. I had a whole lot of garlic bread for dinner, so I'm all out of sorts. I'm all fucking, my arms are akimbo. I'm wearing my green hoodie, which is supposed to be my calmest hoodie. But
I want to say it's weird the way this is presented because it's like you have to choose between being anti-Semitic and pro-white. It's like, well, I mean, yeah, you probably should pick one of them to focus on, but it doesn't mean that if you're pro-white, you shouldn't be anti-Semitic. But it honestly seems like in Sven's case and for a bunch of those guys, being anti-Semitic meant that when people would be pro-white, they would be implicitly suspicious of those people. Like, why are you being pro-white? Are you controlled by the Jews? It's like, hold on a second, buddy.
People think that's crazy, but you can get there pretty easily eventually.
Yeah.
And that's why I say if you're going to be, you have to start with being pro-white. And what does pro-white mean? I'll define it for myself. Being pro-white is believing three things. One, that white people exist. Two, that they have a right to exist. And three, that they're allowed to act within that self-interest. That's it. That to me is being pro-white. And if you can agree on those three fundamental things, we can have a relationship, we can have a conversation. If I say those three things, the first thing out of your mouth is, well, what is white? We're done. Like, I'm not playing that game. We know the game where it's, well, what is white? Well, what is self-interest? Like, shut the fuck up. And then anything that threatens that, that's how you get to any Jewish, and then there's Jewish groups who try to fight those basic tenets, and that's how you get to your anti-Zionism, whatever it might be.
There's another element. There's another element of this as well. Like if you have a positive principle versus a negative principle, right? And you examine your motivations. Like if your motivation for being anti-Semitic is what? Like, yes, okay, you hate Jews. Why though? Why are you so mad at Jews? Well, Jews did X and Jews did Y. Okay, but what does that mean? It's because Jews are an opponent to your race, right? So what you're really saying is attacking Jews is a way of defending yourself. So you've already, you're talking past the sale. You must at least admit that you're trying to defend yourself. But then it's like, don't you have any other enemies aside from Jews? Like, I'll admit Jews are the biggest extant threat to the white race, but they're not the only threat, not by a long shot. We have huge threats even within our own race. So you're opening yourself up to all kinds of other attacks. And again, the fact that you're even saying that anti-Semitism is like your principle, you are admitting that you are not a Jew and that whatever you are is threatened by them. Like that's packaged within it. So it's
Yeah.
it's ridiculous to just say I'm anti-Semitic and nothing else. Like, would you, if you could just, you look at it this way, if you're just anti-Semitic, you would accept destroying your own race in order to destroy the Jews.
Yeah.
Which is insanity, but it sounds like some of these guys, that's actually where they're at.
Yeah. And that's why they end up hating so many white people. And that's why, keep this in mind. I might jump around a bit here because there's some tangents I might go on, things I want to talk about that I'll just dump in it whenever it occurs to me. But one thing that came up in our community today was this is going to be, I can't go too far down this tangent. Okay, I'll just mention it. It's a tweet that Bronze Age Pervert made. And I don't have it in front of me right now and I can't search for it, but I'll just, what it was, Bronze Age Pervert was basically saying that being a race realist or trying to convince people of racial disparities is a losing game now. Liberals don't like it. Decent people don't like it. Elites don't like it. The only strategy going forward is like race blindness. And like, as I'm saying this, maybe people are raising their hand. Maybe people are saying, oh, wait, that's wrong. Because what I was trying to get to, without going into all the problems with that, is that now more than ever, it's my belief that racial stuff is on the table.
Yeah.
Racial, like you got mainstream Republicans, even sort of the fringe Republicans, but they're talking about white replacement. They're talking about like things that we talked about a few years ago. They're talking about it now.
In Canada, especially, I don't think Americans understand the situation in Canada, right? Like I know in the States, there's still plenty of places where you might have a distinct problem with blacks or with Hispanics, but there are plenty of places in the States where you have largely white communities, and those people who are, and of course, those people are already nominally conservative, but they don't have these racial issues, and so they're going to be hard to convince. That doesn't exist in Canada anymore. Every fucking corner of Canada is now like 1/3 Indian and Chinese. And so there's no white person in Canada anywhere, not even in the bush, who doesn't have to deal with Indians on the fucking corner every day that they go out. So like now is the time to talk about this.
At the very least, it's on the table.
Yeah.
And to listen to most of the people at NJP, that was the one thing you're not supposed to do. Don't engage with conservatives. Don't engage with it's all an op. It's all old news. Fuck them. We're the only game in town. Even if the mainstream is starting to dabble in our talking points, we should distance ourselves even more. That's ridiculous. And even when someone like Keith Woods, we might have had our criticisms of things Keith Woods has said in the past, but his, stop the ADL thing, taking the biggest swipe at Zionist influence in my recent memory. And then what did you hear from NJP? Just shit talk. Just look at this loser. Look at this loser doing the thing that we're supposed to do.
He's such an inconceivable piece of shit. It's just wild.
So and just in front, and people's front screens right now, this is just a selection of Sven. This is exactly what we're talking about. I'll read it for the audio. I will laugh if Ireland does a Georgia Maloney-style immigrant influx next year. The Irish deserve it anyway. Stop drinking and beating your wives. Also, you two sucks. As we all know, the answer to Arab and African immigrant violence in your white countries to give more power to Jews in Israel. If you can't just take the W on that, I don't know what to tell you with that. Like, here's the thing about Sven. Again, jumping around a lot. There's a lot of young guys who listen to the show. A lot of people in their early 20s who haven't met every type of guy there is out there. They haven't met like a compulsive liar. You don't know what a compulsive liar is like until you meet one. But Sven is a very specific type of personality where he will say he's joking. He doesn't joke. According to him, and he said this before, he doesn't even like being funny. He's an angry guy. He's a that just says certain things more extreme than others. But if you or I to tell a joke, we would say something preposterous. He just says honestly. Sven isn't really capable of telling a joke. He can only be ridiculous with his honest hatred.
Yeah.
And so the next time when he says something like this, like fuck Irish people, fuck white people, he'll say, oh, I'm just joking. No, you're not, motherfucker. Yeah. I know you. I know your type of guy. I know what you said. Here's the thing about all the NJP TRS guys. They forget that people have listened to them for more than 2 weeks. They are such fucking hypocrites. They will say contrary shit to stuff they said 6 months ago. Like, I watched him when I was still listening to the show during COVID. Like, they changed their COVID position every fucking few weeks. Like, he was making fun of lockdowns and saying it was bad, and now he hates any COVID denialists. Like, he's still seething about anyone who is critical of lockdowns. And they hope that, I think they just assume people aren't listeners, or they have like brown person brain where they have no fucking time horizon.
Yeah.
They don't think people clip this shit. Most people don't. Most people don't have the fucking docs like we do. This is the good stuff. But it's like, yeah, this right here is just open vitriol against white people. Like, what's the joke? Tell me the joke. That you hate U2? Well, do you or don't you? I bet you do. It's just a thing you said too.
U2 does kind of suck, but like, if you're supposed to be supporting white people and you're against Israel, the only content that you put out is quote unquote sarcastically saying Ireland sucks and deserves it. Like, no other comment, right? No other comment about how this is going to affect the Irish and how we can help and, you know, what are some other steps. Nothing constructive. Just, hey, fuck Ireland, they deserve it.
Can I say something
this
quick?
is indistinguishable from what a left-winger would say.
Let me say this. Are you ready? Maybe U2 is mid.
Yes, they are. That was the only true statement.
I was saying YouTube. Maybe U2 doesn't suck. Everyone says U2 sucks. I thought about it. I thought it long and hard the other day, and I said, you know what? Maybe they got a few good songs. Maybe that song, "Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me" from the Batman Forever soundtrack is a good song.
All right.
Think about that, motherfucker.
No,
not you, him.
I'm not gonna think about it though.
I'll say I will, but I'm not gonna. Here's another thing. So I'm just going to post this up here. This is taken from a member of our community, a good friend of the show, Pan-European at the top there. Now, it's not going to show it right here, but his avatar there is actually a picture of a cast iron pan. Great
Very
bit,
cool.
a great bit to live in. But this is an interaction he had with Sven. He's saying, oh, I'm going to get kicked off YouTube for this. Whatever. He says, I understand that the K-words have cut the TRS guys off from most financial services, so I get how frustrating my comment must be. But I wish there was a friction-free method of subscribing. Now that most of the flagship shows have gone, I don't think I could justify the whole $10, but I'd gladly pay $5 for a premium TDS RSS. Here's Sven. Strange definition of flagship. Give me your money or to someone else, retard. FD and Strike Mike were sideshows riding my coattails. I just bought another $4,000 guitar. Subscribe to something else.
Damn.
Were you joking, faggot? Doesn't
Yeah,
sound
he's
like
just making a joke though, guys. The man incapable of saying anything positive or helping his own people. The man incapable of doing anything but insulting the people who pay him. It's all a big joke. It's just part of the bit, you guys. Somebody should injure him.
You called it, because I remember talking to you, I showed you some clips, and I said, you know, Sven, he's sort of like a blue collar sort of guy, and you sniffed it right out and you called me on. He's like, he doesn't look like a blue collar guy to me. He looks like a trendy fag.
Yeah.
Wearing like a fancy shirt.
He's the guy who wears Carhartt overalls with like a $300 hoodie under it and like a snapback baseball cap. Like I'm a contractor, but actually I work in software. He's one of these faggots.
Yeah, just it's a total vibe that you caught on. Again, once vindicated. Again, where's a good thing?
Humiliation.
That's for me. Humiliated once again by Judas. Let's do another. Guess what?
It's been.
There we go. We're having a great time.
This is fun.
Yeah. Fuck, we're an hour in. What the fuck are we doing? So that's just an example of what it's like to deal with this guy. And this is what you would hear from people. And Sven, why are we talking about Sven? Isn't he just a co-host? No. He effectively holds the keys for the entire The Right Stuff.biz organization. From what I've been told and shown, and everyone kind of knows this, he owns the website. He owns all the legal documents. NJP is currently under the ownership of Mike Enoch after it was signed over to him by Greg Conti. Because remember, Mike Enoch didn't start NJP. That was started, the story I heard, from Eric Stryker, Greg Conti, all the guys who were kicked out. That actually makes sense. That sounds, Also because Stryker made the fucking name. Eric Stryker invented the name National Justice. That was his first publishing website, and then that snowballed into this thing, and then he got kicked out of it, which is, you know, say what we will about Eric Stryker. I think he's been pretty level-headed. I would be losing my shit on these motherfuckers if I got kicked out of the thing that I started, and this Mike Enoch, who I have no reason to believe isn't just like kind of a lazy guy. Because here's the thing about Mike Enoch, right? And again, jumping around here, but he, as chairman of NJP, is going to tell you a story, and this was the story they were telling in all of their communiques that came out after, which is that, oh, we had a central committee sort of set up, and that wasn't conducive, and I'm in charge now. That's what he was saying.
Yeah.
He's in charge, but I'm like, no, you're always in charge. You're always the chairman. You wore that title with a badge of pride. You got the main speech position in your fucking barn speeches, gatherings, right? You were the guy. You're the main guy. Don't act like you weren't in charge now.
Yeah.
If an adult man doesn't get to say that, that's embarrassing. That's pathetic.
Yeah.
And so to me, like, they're trying to, this is the funny thing about them. They're like, well, NJP collapsed. Everyone got kicked out. Everyone lost their money. All the people who donated hundreds, thousands of dollars to this thing. What the fuck did they get? A pin? Guess what? Most people didn't get their fucking pin, apparently. And then they're going back to having a show. How do you go back to having a show after something this catastrophically embarrassing?
Yeah.
See, I'm looking at this right now. The Sven thing here.
Yeah.
Look at this, people. For all the current NJP members, how do you give this motherfucker your money still? I ask you. I implore you, tell me.
Or even just listen to the show. Like, again, I mean, we are obviously a competing podcast, but we're not the only one. There's a million people you could be spent. We all are working class guys, dude. We're not fucking socialists. We don't sit around. We work. You're in the car. You got a couple of hours to listen to something. Why the fuck are you going to tune into him, even if you're not giving him money? Why are you listening to this faggot? That's the thing that I don't understand. That's the thing that every time it comes into my mind, I'm like, at some level, I cannot give that much respect to people that still follow them, even though they might be good men. The fact that you make the decision to consistently listen to this guy and not other people, there's something you need to deal with. You need to get your head examined, man.
There's so many hours in the day. Do not give those hours to this guy who hates you.
Yeah.
He hates you. And I don't have the clip here, but people have seen the clip where Sven is saying, fuck your small business.
Oh,
all you small business owners.
That was the one that is that overnight just turned me against the entire group, actually, because it was the same thing. Like, to hear him say that and everyone else in the room just kind of nods along like, yeah, fuck you guys. Fuck you guys. I'm white and I'm a business owner. I lost everything because of fucking COVID. I lost everything. And it's like, fuck small business owners. We need the vax to protect. Like, what? I wanted to reach through the screen and gouge his fucking eyes out with my thumbs when I heard him say that.
Yeah. But you can say things like that if you do not have a connection to white people, if you don't have any sort of empathy, any sort of, like, you're in some cloistered fucking, where he lives is like, here's the fight. Let me say this. I was thinking about this the other day. So a lot of people talk about how ever since NJP started, they all moved into new houses, nice big houses, right? Mike Enoch, especially, how they do that, right? One thing that they'd mentioned was that their neighborhood is adjacent to a synagogue. Now that's reaching a bit, right? Oh, you live near a synagogue. What does that mean? That's just geography. But then I started thinking, like, you and me, how many places have we lived? All around Toronto. Toronto is not alien to the Semitic people, right?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I lived all East End, West End, North End, South End. When's the last time we ever lived near a synagogue?
Yeah.
I don't think ever. Like, you actually, it's odd. It's odd that the leading anti-Semite would live near. I'm not trying to make any hay out of that. It's just an interesting thing.
It's true. Like, the sort of neighborhoods where you could even, like, it's essentially ignoring the idea that there are racial ghettos and racial neighborhoods in most big urban areas, right? Like, why that area? Why not, any other area? It's a little sus.
I don't even know what to make of it. It's just that occurred to me earlier. But also, so these guys bought all these, new houses and everything. And I don't know, that it all seems like, where'd that money come from? And where's it going to keep coming from? And they want to go back to having a show. I don't know how you have just a show. First of all, like, this will sound like I'm being too mean, but like a morning zoo style show, it's over. That's not going to make it. I'm a millennial. I'm in my 30s. I love a morning zoo style show. I love Opie and Anthony. I loved Howard Stern, right?
Yeah.
That's a dead format. You can't just go back to like riffing on the news. You got to do something else, especially if you're three guys who don't seem to really like each other that much.
Yeah.
And you've openly said you hate podcasting. That's a quote from Mike Enoch. I hate podcasting. It's just a day. He's punching a clock.
Another thing, this is minor, but it's big for me. I know it's not big for everybody else, but I don't like spending time listening to people who are just podcast guys, just terminally online dudes. Like, I don't really want to hear your take on the job market if you haven't worked in 5 years, Sven. And I don't really want to hear your take on women if you've never been married, or you haven't had sex in 3 years because you're a fucking loser. Like, I'm literally not interested. Or you want to tell me about how to raise my kids. Like, you and I are working class married guys with children. So, I don't mind listening to other working class married guys with children. If I'm going to listen to somebody like we were talking to Sean Weiland the other day, if I'm going to take, advice about the fucking economy, I'm going to listen to this motherfucker who's worth millions and is in his 40s and has been doing this forever, right? Not some fucking guy who just got an MSNBC headline and is trying to give a racist spin on it, right? Like, why am I listening to you?
Also, I just want to circle back there for a second. It's not the official position of Blood Satellite to be anti-sex. If you haven't had sex in 3 years, there's a great many of our listeners who are simply post-bust.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if you haven't had sex in 3 years, don't go around giving people sex advice. If you've never been married, don't go around giving people relationship advice. That's all I'm saying. If you don't know if you haven't had a job in years and you've been living off of your pay pigs in some fucking mansion in a Jewish neighborhood, maybe you don't know a whole lot about the fucking industrial economy in the Rust Belt. Maybe you should keep your fucking mouth shut about small business. I don't know. What do I know?
Let's get the official Judas rant sound going.
Damn, son, where'd you find
Don't stop ass rape!
All right, I got a few other things here that again might seem actually, let's give a bit of context here. In the downfall of the NJP, this was the message issued forth from Eric Strecker, who, as far as I know, was also back with Warren Baylog. They have a show, they have a new Substack and everything, so it'll be interesting to see what they do. Warren Baylog, a lot of people like him. People like me, you listen to TRS, you see Warren Baylog show up, you say, damn, that's a weird looking guy. It's an odd head, ladies and gentlemen.
I've never seen him.
You never seen him? Okay, let's see if we can get.
He sounds like he has a weird head. Warren Baloney.
He sounds like a nice guy. He seems to know what he's talking about. Okay, let's see here. You know what? Let's see.
Where are you, Warren? We want to look at your head, Warren.
There. That's it's a tall head. It's a tall
excusable. Head. He's the sort of guy, like, if he speaks normally and is affable, you could get past it.
Yep. You know what? Look, he'd be old, sitting on the fence, Judas.
Yeah. I don't know. He doesn't, he's a guy. He's a dude.
He's married to Emily Eustace.
Who's Emily Eustace? That sounds Jewish.
No, I don't think so. She did that old cartoon, Alfred Alfer.
Right. I've seen a bunch of really weird, fucked up, degenerate shit. What a great option for a wife.
Pretty girl, nice enough girl, clearly molested.
Yeah.
Unforgivably sexually maddened from the stuff you see in that. Can't blame her for that though. But damn. Okay, what do we got here? I don't know. I'm just looking at I hope is a Photoshop of Mikey.
Clever Moniker says Warren is exceedingly likable, though. You know what? I'll believe it. I don't know anything about him. And Dimes is up here. He wants to piss on him. I think he looks like a.
I don't like how you're turning everyone against me. I work very, very hard
over a new
to get people on.
I'm having a positive opinion about somebody I don't know for the first time.
People don't usually like me right away. I've worked very hard to get them in the gray area of Dimes coin. That's not Warren Baylog. Anyway, what am I doing here? I'm just looking through. Hold on.
An absolute dude.
Yeah. Maybe he's good. You know, he's used to be known as Ahab on Telegram. Not even
How bad?
24.
How
Sorry,
bad could
continue.
it be if he got kicked out by Sven? I don't know the story, but he got kicked out, right?
How bad could he be if he got kicked out by Sven, who is, as far as I know, the real. I don't even want to call him a villain because he'd like that, right? Not even. Here's what Eric Circus says.
Well,
No, sorry. Okay, go ahead.
sorry, Yin is in the chat. Yin, darling, lovely to see you. I hope you're well. She says Warren is terrible. Do you know my dad is a Nazi? And then she proceeds to hand his father the mic, which is kind of funny, actually.
Oh yeah, he brought his dad Alan Baylog, who's like everyone's like he's like white nationalism 1.0 royalty. I'm like, am I supposed to be impressed by that? Like the more you know about white nationalism 1.0, the less impressive that sounds. Let me just say that. Look, if you got David Duke, get David Duke if you want. But does David Duke want nothing to do with you? Then I don't know. Maybe I'm talking at
Yeah, there's the thing. If David Duke doesn't want to come on your show, I mean, he'll fucking go on CNN. You know, he's all over the place. That's not good.
put you in a triangle choke. So here's some context for people who don't know the aftermath of the NJP. I'll try and get through this because I got some other stuff I really want to talk about. Not even 24 hours after Mike and I made an agreement not to disparage each other, he breaks his word to me. I will give my perspective. I offered Mike and Tony a compromise where I would continue doing striking Mike and stay out of NJP business. They rejected my proposal on the grounds that the chemistry would be off without me in the party. Sounds like something they would say. I even warned them that this could harm TRS as a business multiple times during our last call. They confidently assured me that I was deluded and self-important, which sounds like something Sven would say. Like he had said, like, oh, these other flagship shows. Fashion Nation was a flagship show. There's a lot of people who only joined because they liked the glory days of Fashion Nation.
Yeah.
With Jazz Hands, with Ethnarch, with Halberstram, like the crew that everyone liked. And then it became a shell of its former self later and then collapsed. And now you can't find it anywhere. Here's another thing, just another tangent about Sven being a fucking moron. Like he talks about his small business. His small business is the right stuff.biz. Well, he's a shitty business owner because he had all this content in Fashion Nation, all these shows. TRS used to have so many shows.
Yeah.
And he used to have the Paranormies. I don't give a shit what you think about the Paranormies. It's a pretty big show. Johnny Monoxide is a pretty big name that people like to have on, and that would have drawn people in.
One of the biggest you know what you can say, there's some of these shows that they kicked off and they petered out. You kick a show off and it winds up still pulling in as many and sometimes more listeners than yours, than your flagship. You fucked up, man. You fucked up so bad. It's inconceivable how bad at business you could be to literally throw away free content somebody else made for you that you could profit from. Like I can't even understand the headspace you'd be in to make that decision.
And also remember the word that I got from former shows that were on there, a few guys, was that no one got paid. No one got paid for being on TRS. The main guys got paid. They got all that sub money. But a lot of the shows that you might have liked, especially the non-American shows, no one made any money. However, the trade-off was you're on the network, so you get tens of thousands of listeners to your show. And a lot of people made their bones doing that. No mark against them for doing that, but I bet there was no contracts in place. They could have just kept the content. But what fucking Sven will probably not want to tell you is that the reason Paranormies seemed to have left was because he got into a fight with them and kicked them out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Godcast, they all went to Americana. So a lot of former shows went on this thing called the Americana Network. I'm very friendly with the Americana guys. Yin points out here correctly, the Godcast left. Godcast, another very popular show that as they became more National Socialist atheists, just couldn't stop hating on whites and Christians.
Yep.
While they started a political party. By the way, again, I'm going back to the beginning here. A political party, National Justice Party, party's in the name, from the start, had no interest in running candidates, had no interest in raising money for candidates, had no interest in even interfacing whatsoever with the mainstream political organization. These are the fucking geniuses you have doing this.
It's funny, they never would have been able to because they were so insistent on being as absolutely bombastic and toxic politically as they could. So, because the thing is if you had been at least nice, don't even abandon your principles, just be fucking nice and concede once in a while and be friendly, you probably could have run some local candidates in the Rust Belt and won some actual votes. You could have got some city council members, I bet, but you didn't even fucking try. So,
because they thought politics was stupid. Because you have galaxy brain Cro-Magnon cavemen like Alex Manab saying that the great Satan should collapse. By the way, so you got a political organization. They could have called themselves the National Justice Organization, didn't. NJO sounds just as good, whatever. But then you have guys who are affiliated with it saying, I hope the great Satan is destroyed tomorrow. And these are the ones you want to get Americans on your side with.
right.
Like you're and they'll revise that whole history right now, pretend that they didn't do that, they don't hate America while starting a political organization in America.
Yeah. One of them was in here the other day trying to convince us that North Korea was actually healthy, wealthy, and based, and is one of the only real nations globally standing up to the great Satan of America.
That buddy, reeks of a striker point.
I don't like the American government that much. I don't like them. I don't like them at all. I wish they would change significantly. But you're wishing death on your own nation, and at the same time praising a foreign country that you know fuck all about, which, by the way, I've lived in the orbit of, and it is not a nice place. In fact, nowhere in Asia holds a candle civilizationally to North America in terms of health, in terms of sanity. Like it's just such a wild claim from some fucking armchair warrior.
Well, this is where the TWP people come in, because if you are sort of a Nazgul type, you are necessarily third worldist. And some people think that's a dirty word to say, but there are third worldists, and there's a lot of them on the right who they are they call themselves anti-Ang. A lot of them might even cite Tragedy in Hope by Carol Quigley, being anti-British and therefore anti-Anglo, which usually makes you anti-white.
Yeah.
But they're third worldist in the sense that, real fascists are brown. We need a third world alliance to fight the greater American empire, the GAE, the gay, the great Satan. We need to unite all the third world people to hate white people to achieve, I guess, the type of ethno-nationalism that would preserve white people. I guess they don't really think that far ahead.
This is the whole thing again. Like I was saying earlier, you hate Jews so much that you will literally destroy your own civilization. But like the Hispanics and the blacks and the Indians and the Arabs and the Muslims, like they want you dead too, man. White atheists want white Christians dead. That's a big problem. It's not the biggest problem, but you're just fucking ignoring it. Like you're fine with all of these other groups undermining you and stepping on your toes just if you can fight the Jews.
And this was guiding a lot of their pro-Palestinian stuff. And
Palestinians hate you, man. They fucking hate you. They hate you one sliver less than they hate Jews. That's it.
Well, again, one sliver less currently.
Currently. After they destroy Israel, who do you think they're fucking coming for next, man?
Yeah, I got a couple of clips to back that up, and we'll play those right now to give people the context. But one thing I wanted to say, and this might sound cruel, and maybe I'm talking out of my ass, but I would send a message to the Eric Strikers of the world, all the people cast aside by NJP. And I would say, have you had a lot of help from all your Palestinian allies? Have you had a lot of assistance from all of these brown connections you've made?
Yeah, all of your Muslim followers who donate
Have
to
you got a lot of North Korean fucking dollars, motherfucker? Tell me. I want to hear that story. He'd say, I get nationalists all over the world. Are they Palestinian? Because they're some of the biggest ones right now. Do you have a lot of Muslims helping you out? It seems that white people, white identitarians, are always the ones trying to make these one-way friendships and talking up all these other nationalist movements that give them nothing in return because they're too fucking thick-headed to say these people don't have my self-interest in mind. So tell me, how many Palestinian groups with all this money flowing around have given a few fucking bucks to you motherfuckers? I bet it's zero. I bet it's nothing. I bet you're all fucking poor and friendless right now. And you're still trying to scrape all the white people you pissed off back in your sphere of influence because you can't get a fucking job because none of you have any fucking skills except talking shit about white people and hoping that white people support you.
That's the best part right now is watching them try to get jobs.
Yeah. Get a job doing content. Oh, a Substack? You got a Substack? Well, golly, I hope that works out for you. I hope you get the Substack bucks. Oh, it just so happens that they're all banning Substack, far right Substack people, which is something we called 2 years ago. By the way, actually, obviously, 2 years ago, we're saying, hey, geniuses, hey, everyone over here, let's gather around over here. You know how we're the most banned group on the internet? You know how we're
Yeah.
always getting banned? Maybe let's not put all of our eggs in the most journalist-aligned platform in existence. Everyone
Literally.
said, no, Dimes, they want all the far-right people here. And then the most predictable thing in the world happened. All the far-right people started getting banned, and they said, oh, what are we going to do? Because no one can think even one step ahead. No one can even think about what their own fucking self-interest is. And we keep repeating the same cycle again and again with these fucking dysgenic antisocial retards trying to take every last fucking quarter, every dime from you. And there's still people. You're going to give money to these motherfuckers? There's less anti-white people in the Nation of Islam. Go join them. Because these motherfuckers, if you think COVID was a bit of a hoax, they want you fucking dead. They think it's funny that you don't have a job. At least fucking the black people who think you're an evil genetic alien experiment might defend you if you get fired egregiously. You know who won't? Fucking Sven. He doesn't give a fuck about you. Eric Stryker. He doesn't give a fuck about you. Warren Baylock. You know who doesn't give a fuck about you? Mike Enoch. These pieces of shit who haven't worked a job ever. Mike Enoch had one? He says it's a web design job. I work in web design. Your website looks like shit, motherfucker. What's that about?
Only Indians work in web design. That's a huge red flag. Hey, I work in web design. No, yeah, sorry. Are you Dravidian? No, you don't. That's bullshit.
What's the last website you made? I made 4 last year. How many did you do?
The point is, we all make websites. My wife and I have made like 7 websites this year. Everybody makes fucking websites. You can make a website in 30 minutes. Like, that's not a job. That's like saying I take the garbage out. It's my job.
Yeah. So I went off on a bit of a rant here. I got the garlic bread in me.
Yep.
I'm neither here nor there. Let's get past this. I got some real funny shit to talk about. Okay. This is just going to sound mean, right? This is a mean segment.
Good.
Bully segment.
Good.
I just want to give another view. Remember how we started off positive, right?
Yeah.
I want to give people a peek over the fence at what you're paying for, the types of people. Okay, so here's some forum posts pulled from the Bang forum. It's about Borzoi. Starts off by Borzoi. I recognize a couple of these people. So I'm just going to read off what this says. I see a lot of comments on TRS and other websites that are downright nasty about Borzoi without any rational reason or moral standing behind it. I know this is the internet and it happens all the time, but I'll tell you why Borzoi gets this shit. Okay. The people who call him these names, effeminate, nerd, midwit, boring. These are people who grew up watching television shows that openly mocked white men for being smart by falsely portraying them as socially stunted losers with no backbone.
Oh no.
These are effectively talking.
No.
This is such a fun thing. Like, just imagine this. Like, imagine like Borzoi getting bullied and the guy like steps in front of him and holds him. Let me handle this. Sure, you may call him a gay loser and just reciting all this stuff. I know a lot of people call him a weird guy, a fucking effeminate skinny freak.
So what if he's only 5 feet tall? So what if his wrists are dainty like a woman's wrists? So what if he's never driven a car? Just leave him alone, okay? Some guys are nerds, but that's cool too. Some guys have a high-pitched voice, but that's all right. Oh man,
I did that to some guy in school. Was a guy that we know in elementary school. Like, he was just like this kind of dumpy fat kid, and I did the hey, leave him alone. I did that because I
Leave
watched
my
TV.
fat retard friend alone.
Basically, you're just picking on him because he's lesser than you. Oh, I get you, a big man. You think it's funny to pick on a short, fat, smelly kid? I got news for you.
Do you think he asked to be born the son of an alcoholic and a whore? It's not. Yeah.
Do you think he asked to be molested by his younger sibling? He's like,
That's amazing. That's good.
Oh,
I'm saving that one.
All right, back.
You're so gay. You were molested by your younger brother.
Keep that one under your hat for later. Next time you see this comment like this, just tell them that they are good goyim and should join the GOP. Damn. You know who else was okay? You know who else was an effeminate nerd? Obergrugenführer Reinhard Heydrich, Reichsführer SS Heinrich Himmler, Reich Commander Arthur Seyss Inquart. Ooh, a double last name.
He took his wife's last name.
He took his wife's last name. Not good. Not Nazi bros. Are we okay? Some of them even wore glasses. What a bunch of losers, right?
Yes, they were.
Actually, Borzoi, smart, capable, socially healthy. That's a weird thing to say. That's like the good personality for guys.
Yeah.
If you say, like, let me just say this.
That's a way of saying he doesn't have too many friends.
If you hear a woman has a good personality, you shoot her. When have you, bunch of sorry ass chuckle fucks, ouch, done that even remotely resembles an honorable life? Okay, move on. Okay. Alex McNabb. And let me just say for the record, a lot of people, and you know who you are, a lot of people are new to hating NJP. I've been team fuck McNabb since the beginning. I have been, and also a lot of the guys, even the die-hard NJP followers that are trying to convince me that I got the wrong idea about this. I'm like, yeah, but Alex McNabb can suck a dick, right? Like, oh yeah, fuck that guy. Like, I'm not telling tales out of school here. Everyone hates Alex McNabb except the people on the forum.
I never knew any of this, and I only started paying attention to this when the drama started about a year ago. The first time I ever saw him on a stream with Sven and Mike, I didn't know the context, and I thought he was like their Beetlejuice. Like, I thought he was a guy just based on the social. He doesn't talk that much, and when he does talk, they kind of laugh like, haha, yeah, Alex, sure, and then they move on. And it's like, is he Beetlejuice? Is he the retard they keep around and they kind of needle him sometimes to keep the motion going? Like,
yeah. Like, usually when you have a third mic, the third mic is supposed to be the heel. The third mic is the guy. Sometimes you make fun of, you bully a little bit just to keep it. He's a victim, a sacrificial entity. But they never do that to him. It's just everyone's aware that he's the third wheel no one likes, but it's never addressed. So, like, imagine like Stern or Opie and Anthony, where like the producers suck, but it never gets brought up.
Yeah,
it's just this weird thing that's hanging in the air all the time. Everyone's like, "Oh, Alex McNabb, his writing is really good." No, it's not. That's a lie. That's a lie you tell yourself. His writing is terrible. Everything, and not a single good thing has ever left that fucking caveman skull. And everyone says like, "Oh, his head looks like that because he's in a car accident." No, that is a man who has lived for 10,000 years. That is the man from Earth. That is, he's about to leave the show because he has to move to the next town because they're getting wise to the fact that he never ages.
I love the idea that he's the man from Earth. That's so good.
You saw that movie, right?
It's great.
For people who don't know, it's a movie about a guy, just like a professor, and he calls like a dinner party.
Yeah.
Tell his friends that he's leaving because, in fact, he's been a Cro-Magnon has been alive for like 10,000 years. Yeah. And it's just like a play where they ask him questions. And spoiler alert, he was actually Jesus Christ.
Ooh.
And by the way, I got news for you. He was Jesus, and he got all his ideas from Buddhism.
Damn. Not watching it.
It's not good. But you know what? As a movie, it triggers ideas because you start thinking, how would I write a better movie? That's kind of an interesting idea. What would a person who's lived 10,000 years actually be like? Maybe they'd be insane. Anyway, I don't go off on that. Let's listen to Alex McNabb. It's projection from people who do not work any traditionally masculine job and suffer from extreme insecurity. By the way, Alex McNabb, for people who don't know, was a part-time paramedic before he got doxxed. Now, what he got doxxed for and what got him in trouble, he used to do a bit on The Daily Show, Dr. Narcan, where he would tell medical industry stories. Everyone loves stories from paramedics and doctors and shit. And he would say things like, whenever he had a black child in his van in the truck, he would purposefully use the largest needle to like scare them and traumatize them. So that's your traditionally masculine man, a guy who tortures black children. You unforgivable faggot.
Yeah.
You unlikable. You stain on the white identity. Like, and I'm just going to say this in case I forget. I say this with just every ounce of vigor that the white race would be better off without Sven and Alex McNabb. And I mean that. I really fucking mean that. Because Sven will say, like, I've done more for the white race. Fuck you. No, you haven't.
No, you've been a huge detriment. The only thing that we're getting out of them now is after the fact, we can deconstruct all their mistakes to hopefully prevent it from happening again in the near term.
Yeah. Also, there's tons of these fears. It's the same people that think I'm gay for riding a road bike. So that's the thing. His entire identity is wearing a skin tight Lycra bodysuit, like our friend Raver, a good friend Raver who lives in Toronto, who got into cycling. It was the damnedest thing. It was like being at a slow motion funeral, watching someone get into biking.
But the thing is Alex McNabb has the physiognomy of like a small Shrek, but our buddy Ray has the physiognomy of like a cartoon cyclist. Like he's tall and lanky and has a long neck. And
he
long
does
fingers.
look like the character from Triplets of Belleville.
Yeah, he literally looks like the guy from Triplets of Belleville. He's got a long face. He's he's not Jewish, but he's got a med face. So yeah,
and he
belongs
gets
on a bike.
The special type of helmet that's long in the back, like an Evangelion sort of getup. But anyway, it's like, yeah, these are the same type of people who call me gay for riding a bike. Like, imagine just put that as your signature. You might as well tattoo that on your fucking forehead. I'm not gay because I ride a bike. Moving on. Personally, I think our thing is fuck all without guys like Borzoi. Its only real attraction is because our guys fucking read. True. Here we go. Get ready for this. The right is infested with pseudo-machismo. The actual guerrilla fighters of history, the original IRA, the Waffen-SS, those who actually fight power don't even lift. Now, that sounds like...
that sounds true. First of all, that sounds true. I doubt that like the guerrilla fighters of the early 20th century went to the gym 3 times a week and had leg day. That's not the fucking point, though. This is a straw man to try to demasculinize because you're getting fucking bullied and you can't take it. Like, you're supposed to be able to be bullied. You know what I mean? There's no saving these guys.
It's like, or maybe they did do like push-ups, sit-ups, lifts. Like they did workouts. But this is like the start of a slippery slope, which is like actually caring about fitness is gay.
And which is also funny. I was going to say earlier, another one of my big things, I'm just because I'm a mean dude. You can't trust fat people. You can't trust fat people. And I thought Mike Enoch was all right, but people who are that obese and are clearly not even making an effort, I'll tell you 2 things about them as a fucking fact. They have no self-discipline and they are disorganized. And now they might be really sweet guys. They might be smart guys. They might have a lot of skills. But is that the guy that you want to trust to be on time for an event or to organize an event? Fuck no. This is the last guy. You might invite him as an afterthought. That's it. But you'd have a group that's led by a guy who looks like that? Come on, get real.
Holy shit.
Get his ass. All right. Now, I'm introducing this. This is part of a series here. There's several responses, and we're just at the start here. Okay. This is Borzoi talking here. I advise everyone to look into the backgrounds of the 7 men who led the Easter Rising. Joseph Plunkett, for instance, was a champion-level roller skater who studied Irish and Esperanto.
He studied Esperanto and roller skates?
So you see where I'm going with this, where it's like, yeah, lifting skate. In fact, the cool guys all roller skate and bike.
Oh my God.
What is
the Easter Rising? Is that an important thing?
Some shit no one needs to know. Basically,
it must have been very impactful.
let me tell you this. For anyone who wants to like make any post, make up a revolution. Make up an uprising. People will just go along with you.
Can you imagine being named Joe Plunkett and thinking that the cool thing to do would be roller skate and learn Esperanto? Can you imagine how much we would bully a guy like this?
And also, my argument here is that imagine how better that uprising would be if he didn't do rollerblading.
Yeah.
Imagine how much better he could be if he didn't have it around in his head.
Yeah. What if he did a bunch of boring machismo shit? Like, I don't know, learned how to fire a gun.
Yeah.
Or like got fit, like learned kickboxing. I don't fucking know. Like anything other than roller skating. Jesus Christ.
You know what you haven't seen? Because I do lifting and I've done boxing in the past, and when I was younger did martial arts. There has been no physical activity, no combat that employs what I'm imagining is like the technique of picking up a woman and throwing her.
There should be.
You know what I mean?
There should
Like
be.
imagine here's my perfect workout. You're in a room full of trampolines, right? And you got just a woman, mid-sized woman, not too much on the back end, not too much on the top. And you just devise a workout where you lift her up with both arms and you throw her around. You launch her across the room, bounce her off the walls, and you just need to wield her like a medicine ball. Think of any exercise you can use the medicine ball and just imagine a woman and just throw her the fuck around.
Yeah.
That solves this whole
You know what?
lifting
Legitimately
crisis.
though, because my eldest is getting big. She's like almost 4. She's more than half as tall as me. And the thing is, when you pick kids up, if they're goofing around, you've got their whole weight, and they'll do some dumb shit like they'll swing their whole body over to one side, and you'll just about throw your fucking back out. But it's like you should like if you had like add that as a workout, like just try to hold a person in the air while they're wriggling and you can't get a grip on them and their weight is shifting. That's every muscle in your body. If you don't injure yourself, you will injure yourself.
We got comments here from I am not a number. I am a free man saying, have you seen North American women lately? You get plenty strong. Exactly. We're in the good ass idea zone right now. Okay. Yeah. By the way, I'm spending too long on this shit. You're back to McNabb. In my experience, cycling is a hobby for married white men with families. Weightlifting, on the other hand, well, I don't know if you noticed this, but there was an entire thread in here about a certain weightlifter from our old circles and gay porn. We discussed this guy on the show a couple days ago. We're not going to go into the whole thing, but
it's so absurd to say weightlifting is for single gay men. That's just wild.
It's an insane Cope and Sneed sort of comment, because now you're seeing how this is snowballing. Like only straight married men cycle. It's like, well, the reason you say that is because when you tell people you like to cycle a lot, the first thing you've heard your entire life is, oh, what's your partner's name? And does he ride with you?
Right. Legitimately. Like that would be a polite question for a liberal coworker to ask you, actually. You know, and it's just like I don't think cycling is gay. I own a bike. Bikes are great. But like it's the point is not that we hate bikes. The point is if you make biking your whole personality, right?
You know what? I think if you are a cyclist, it's an uphill bike to prove that it's not the gayest shit. And that's just the way of the world. But don't go out here talking like this is something he deals with his whole life. All right.
Okay, Jar Jar Abraham wants to know, 2 minutes behind, but Colin leaves. How the fuck do you not know about the Irish 1916 revolution? Jesus fucking Christ. Well, there's one reason, which is I'm not autistic. The second reason is I don't really read anything. And the third reason is I'm not fucking Irish. And there's another reason, which is, no, there isn't. There's 3 reasons. There's 3 reasons is a good number. There's 3.
It just sounds like we're being very harsh to the Irish generally, and I don't appreciate it.
I love the Irish.
Also, there's a little...
But I'm just not Irish, so like, why would I know that?
There's a few too many Irish revolutions, if I'm being honest.
They are revolting, aren't they?
You're supposed to have just a couple. I've got a dozen Irish revolutions that people keep coming at me with.
Yeah.
Enough.
Joe Plunkett is a great name, though.
Yeah, I guess. Oh, here we go. Nice try. We know you're autistic.
I took that autism taste that Rodmad posted the other day, and I got a 12 out of 50. I'm like the least autistic person.
That's bullshit.
It's true. I'm not autistic at all.
I think you planned for this. I think you artistically planned for that test. No, you're not.
I have a job and friends, and I go outside all the time, and I don't read books. And I look at the world holistically and never even notice details at all.
Well, you know who also has jobs? women.
Really poking holes in my theory here. Shit.
Now, this is just the next part. Again, nothing to do with nothing. These next couple ones are Alex Manab is a sex weirdo.
Of course he is.
Here's just a comment he made. I'm 4 years older than Crowder, and I would have been too distracted by my raging boner. Talk about pregnant wives. Get an argument with your pregnant wife and how turned on he is by his pregnant wife. We got a sex guy. He's one of these like penis guys you hear about.
McNabb's not married, is he?
He is.
He is? No
yeah.
way he is.
He
Can he make comments seriously? Not to say that like you don't still love your wife when she's pregnant, but if you're having a long-term like relationship ending argument with your wife and you're going to say, "Oh, I wouldn't be able to argue with my wife because I have such a big boner." Like what an asinine thing to say. Because to me this just sounds like somebody who has never had an argument with their wife. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's a weird he's made several posts about how turned on he is by pregnant women. This video made me review some photos of my wife when she was pregnant. I then went into the living room and commanded her to attend to her wifely duties. She may not borrow the car as I do not want a wet spot on the upholstery of the driver's seat, ladies and gentlemen.
This guy is fucking weird, man.
This is
I like him less with every moment.
He's one of these penis guys. Always talking about his dicks and his ejaculations and whatnot. You don't need to be talking about this.
No, you really don't. Well, look, you can. Locker room talk is fun, but like you're supposed to hold leadership to a higher standard.
Looking at, just telling everyone, oh, by the way, guys, I have sex with my wife. As we've said, it's in 2024, post-bust. We exist beyond sex. If you're out here sucking and fucking, you're over there whacking off, do it in the dark, do it by yourself. You don't got to be spreading that around.
There's another thing too, and I think we have a pretty good record on this because my wife is in our chat, and we have a bunch of other chat wives from other guys in the chat, and we do get into shitty locker room sex talk jokingly sometimes, but I don't think any of us has ever made an untoward comment about our spouses publicly. Like I honestly can't imagine. I would be embarrassed to say something like this. And I feel like that's a normal thing for a grown, civilized white man. You don't make weird sex jokes about your wife in a public forum.
Look at this 18 up dudes. You can't see that on here on the screen now. I got 18 up Reno Dinos. Someone made a comment like he says he's bagged a lot of women. Yeah, there's always a guy in school like, yeah, man, I banged a lot of hot chicks. I don't buy it. Show me the photos of their vaginas.
Let's see them.
Oh yeah, you fucked 5 vaginas. Name 5.
Yeah. I've been with a lot of women and I got the lampshades to prove it. Oh, Alex.
Show me the measurements of their skulls. I don't have them. I'm curious. That's interesting. God. Is this playing?
Tolerant Fellow says, don't you guys have Asian wives? Yes.
Well, yeah, exactly. And it's not because of a vagina thing.
Come at
us.
It's
well,
not,
actually,
it's not. Yeah.
Well, it actually is because I don't like Asian women. I like sideways pussy. And if white women had that, then we wouldn't need to resort to this.
See, it's funny. Now you're doing it. Now you're talking about it.
I know. Well, also the implication here is that you actually believe that's what it is. So can you hear this? Can I play this?
No, I can't hear anything.
Can't hear that. Okay. There was a clip here of them talking about the white working class. Anyway, I'm gonna stop that for now. There's some other stuff that I think is more. That was just a segment where we went over some, just bits and whatnot. But I have a list of posts that were made on Kiwi Farms because there's a thread on Kiwi Farms that follows. That's been following them for years and years and years, and I think there's been some posts over the past few months that have been really, really interesting. Hold on a second here. And that will cause, I think, a lot of discussion. Sorry, I'm just Kiwi Farms is being fucking weird for me right now. I hate this site. I hate it so bad. All right, so hold on. Just getting it going here. All right, so I'm going to share my screen here. Source.
Yin says McNabb had a home birth and he was in the water where his wife was giving birth. That's fucking gross. Why would you do that?
All right, so yeah. Here's one. There's hold on. Let me just replace this. I'm in the wrong one.
CA wants to know if he drank the water. Almost certainly. We're going to have to go with that for now. He definitely drank the water.
Hold on. I have all these like fucked up in order. Talk for a minute. I need to get this sorted out.
Talk for a minute. So anyways, anybody who tuned in late, my wife drove over the wellhead today. It was thrilling. It wasn't that bad, actually. It looked really bad, but it ended up not being that bad. And the best part about it, I thought we are going to have to call a tow truck and we're going to have to get all these people involved. And we talked to our very good friend, who is also our neighbor, who is also a farmer, who is also our landlord. And he came over and fixed the whole thing for us, solved the problem. We put a board over the wellhead with a bale of hay to keep it down, keep the kids out of it. And he told us to not worry about the damage, that we're gonna figure it out later. It's just the most wonderful guy. And I thank my lucky stars that I can live in a small rural white community.
All right, thank you.
Fuck you, Judas.
You told me to talk.
Enough of that. So Kiwi Farms, I just had a bunch. It wasn't selecting the one I had set up for first. But I was going to read a couple of these, and I just wanted to get your thoughts on it because a lot of these posts are giving an assessment of not only NJP but what was known as the alt-right broadly. Because I think the downfall of the NJP, and really the downfall of TRS. We'll see if it, my thing was they got to go away to come back. I think it's a bad look to just kind of chug along and pretend none of that happened. Whatever. Let's say they keep going. But I think the fall of the NJP signaled like the death of this thing called the alt-right, the traditional alt-right, or like them trying to make something out of it. Because here's my thing is that the desire to create a project like NJP wasn't misguided. For a bunch of podcast guys who run a network to say, you know what, I want to do something serious. I want to do something big. Let's get some money together. Let's marshal our forces. Let's make a real go at it. I don't want people to get the idea that I'm saying don't do that, because that's what a lot of people said. A lot of people said, you're a fool for even trying to make any sort of organization. That's not what I'm saying. And I'll give them another piece of credit that a lot of people after Charlottesville talked mad shit about Charlottesville, saying it was stupid to even try. I don't think it's stupid to try. I think maybe what they could be accused of was being a little naive, right? But, that was a time when we felt like we could be a bit more naive. We didn't know that the cops would so nakedly be on the side of Antifa. I wasn't there, right? But they thought,
shocking.
They thought that, okay, if we go through all the steps, all the processes, we get the right paperwork done, we can have a peaceful protest trying to defend this statue that's going to be ripped down. A statue, by the way, that we all saw burned recently, melted down, and all the conservatives are up in arms about how the General Lee statue being melted down, how egregious that is. Well, I didn't hear you guys defending the Charlottesville protesters when they were trying to keep that very same statue up. So fuck any of the conservatives that want to get upset about now. Anyway, I was not a shit talker about Charlottesville. So, I don't think that the desire to do something serious should be, the takeaway should be that you never should have tried, right? Would that be, what do you think about that?
Absolutely. And I don't even blame the guys for getting hoodwinked. I think at the time when it happened, I would have been right with them saying, like, look, if we we book the protest, we follow all the rules, we don't do anything illegal, we're as peaceful as we can be, aside from a couple troublemakers. And then Antifa is going completely hog wild and being violent and insane like they usually are. At the very least, the cops will have to be neutral, if not arrest Antifa. That would be totally, why not expect that? And the Charlottesville was the turning point when we realized, wow, they literally are like Antifa and the police are two branches of the same power, literally. Like they have the same, they're taking orders from the same organization.
Charlottesville, I think people finally realized in a very visceral way that there's no rules to follow. Like people also
Correct.
realize that they will never leave you alone. The grill dad nationalism doesn't work.
It's why we now know that protests don't work, and going and hiding in the bush forever don't work.
And that broke a lot of people's minds. That broke a lot of people left and never came back. It's the same thing that happened to QAnon. QAnon learned that QAnon was a lot of Gen X people and a few boomers realizing that democracy isn't real, realizing that votes don't matter, and that broke their minds. And now they're off in the weeds on all kinds of kooky shit. But that's what happens when the paradigm you think you're living in is proven to be just a facade.
Yeah. It's like
so everyone learned that, okay,
theory.
The entire system will just bend the rules to persecute us. Then I don't know where I stand. I don't know what we can do. And then a lot of people just left and never came back. And I can't even blame them. But, I don't want the message here to be not to try. And that really is what this stream is supposed to be about.
Yeah.
It's a message to people like, we'll look at what the NJP did, where they went wrong. I think we've kind of covered where they went wrong. I think it was a lot of personalities. I'll start by saying this. My position on the National Justice Party was that they took a very effective, decentralized organization, a 21st century organization, and they tried to muscle it and cram it into a 20th century model, this sort of ossified, static tomb of an idea. And that's what made it die. So if you look at what the Right Stuff Up was before, it was a podcast network, very effective podcast network. That was the center. Encircling that were these things called pool parties. And the pool parties were sort of decentralized collections of listeners and people who were friendly to the cause. And they would meet up, and it wasn't a mutual aid network per se, but people made real friendships there. And there's a lot of people who think fondly of those times. Maybe some people who are still there. The pool parties was this sort of network, this organic network that each little pool party had its own leader. And it was just, it had no central command, but it was just there. And then almost on an outer ring from that, you had the Manor Bund. And the Manor Bund was loosely affiliated. That was more of an active group network. That still exists in many forms. There's other names for it, but that's where you had guys who were going to train, go out, do activities, things like that. And it was a bit more focused, a bit more regimented, but the two weren't the same, but they kind of, it was one big ecosystem. And they took this thing and they shattered it. And I've got a lot of messages and comments and documents provided from a lot of these pool party leaders and guys who were on the ground floor of this whole thing and watched as the NJP leadership, in the form of Warren and others, decided to say, we're going to absorb the pool parties into this thing called the NJP, and you all need to be dues paying members. And anyone who doesn't want to pay dues is out. And these are people who've been part of these groups for years. And now they're trying to bring the hammer down and say, no, now you're part of this party and you got to pay the party. And then some people left. Some people left to never come back. So that entire system, and then there was feuds with the Manor Bund. That broke off. There's still feuds with that. They had this group called Evergreen, which was like the women's group. They had a very successful women's organization as part of this. They did the same thing. They absorbed it. And the last I heard, it was called like the NJP Women's Division. And again, a bunch of hoes got scared off. Why wouldn't they? They're shit. It's a bunch of dysgenic freaks saying, give me money or you're not white or you're not in this or if you're not with us, you're against us. It was a lot of that, making enemies out of friends. And guess what? That beautiful organic organization, which is what you want, by the way, that is the 21st century orientation that you have. That can't be built. That's very difficult to do. That's very hard to prosecute. That's very hard to persecute. That's very hard to stamp out if you are an oppressive force. A lot of groups would kill to have that, and they fucking destroyed it. It's never come. And you want to go back to square one now? Good fucking luck. You want to get the pool parties going again? Good fucking luck. There's so many people who've been burned. Throw a rock in the scene, and you'll hit 5 people who've been burned by TRS, been burned by these individuals who are still calling you fucking losers, right? These guys, like a lot of our listeners are former TRS people who are like, I gave money, I gave it a shot, and look where it got me. I'm done. They're done. They don't. They're disheartened. They're cynical now. They made ambitious, vibrant people cynical, and that is their greatest sin. That to me is unforgivable. That's the story of NJP, that they had a perfect fucking system and they destroyed it. And I don't think in the current environment, the current system, you can get that going again easily, because this came up during a time when you could get away with stuff like this. People were on YouTube. People had credit card processors. Now all the people can do is trade Bitcoin and, whisper on Telegram. It's way harder now. So good fucking luck. And, there's other groups out there. Just so I'm not too blackpilling, there's still active groups out there. The Americana Network has this thing called the Midwest Network. There's still remnants of this stuff, but it's all to the wind. It's all kind of out there. They're trying to scramble and figure out what they're doing, because they had a good thing and they had a camaraderie that was broken. And I don't know. That to me was, and that's the situation we're standing in right now. Trying to take appraisal of what's around us and say, what do we do with all these pieces? Because whatever we do from here, it's not going to look like that. I'm speaking so emphatically to people. Do not get drawn in by these desires to LARP as a 20th century corporation. Like, you can see these guys, the Baylogs, the Strikers, like, it wasn't enough for them to have this sort of affinity network. They had to be the central committee. They had to be sitting around a table. They had to have titles, and they have to have a rigid hierarchy. They had to take it back in time to something that just can't exist right now. And it was the desire to LARP as a 20th century thing that is going to sink every single effort we have. Like, forget political organizations. If you are calling back to like 1940 shit saying we should try that again, it's done. Yes. Anything that works now, it needs to be something new. It needs to be fluid. It needs to be organic. And the kinship networks will necessarily look a bit different, because, I was talking to Frody Midyor the other day in an interview that will go live. He's the guy who runs Guide to Culture, and he's big into retribalization. People need to separate from society, start parallel organizations, retribalize yourself with your ethnicity and your belief system. He's a pagan, for example. And I always keep coming back to, okay, but you know what? Like, the model that you live in, it's not going to look like the 15th century. And I think people still have that dream. They got the wheat fields in their minds. And I think that leads them astray more often. They're not really thinking practically. They're possessed by fantasies of these old models that they just want to recreate. And I think those will become your prison. I said a lot of stuff there. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, there's some shit going on in the chat here. I think you were talking. Okay, so how are we looking? I only got access to YouTube. How are we doing on Odyssey?
Oh, I don't have the Odyssey open. I was scared to open it because I don't want to nuke my connection here because my internet is fucky.
All right.
Vob, have you looked at the Odyssey? No, she hasn't.
All right. So I'm just going to read some stuff here. This is from Kiwi Farms, but this guy named Blamo2000, who I find to be pretty interesting.
Do you know who this is? Because they've got so many posts. Like, they seem to know. They seem to be on the inside.
There's a lot of insiders who would go on Kiwi Farms. There's some other channels, just to repeat their names. The Absolute State of White Nationalism is another show that goes deep into this. There's a channel called TRS Exposed on Telegram. They post a lot of stuff. I know Johnny Monoxide, he doesn't make this his bread and butter, but he does speak to this occasionally. There's some other guys like, what's that? Tavistock guy, Tavistock testing. Anyway, I forget his name, but he's in look up Tavistock. You'll find it on Telegram. It's a pretty popular channel. So I'm just going to say some stuff here, and I want to hear your thoughts, and maybe some people in the chat could chime in too. So the alt-right is currently selecting for bad people. It's dysgenic in an organizational sense. James Alsop, a fresh and upcoming podcast guy, would be perceived as a treat to their comfy job and force them to actually put in more effort.
A threat to their comfy job.
Threat. Threat. Good point. What Alsop lacked is perspective. When you're young and actually touch grass, you don't have a deep knowledge about the death spiral patterns organizations do when they can't actually do much and are under too much pressure. Perspective, it makes sense to trying to go to I don't know what he's trying to say there, but yeah, I think you get it. That seems to have the means and infrastructure to keep the podcasting going, and he wouldn't need to worry about the technical distribution stuff. Where I really see the glow, and by glow he means sort of suspicious behavior, is in the NJP's tactics and strategy. TRS, a group that was burned by Charlottesville, and the TWP decided to make a group that will make goon marches and shouting at Jewish grandpas on behalf of Palestine. So basically the bad optics they were against all along. Also, there is this tactic of the system to take any sort of protest movement and whatnot. Insert two guys with Confederate Nazi flags, and then the media can run around saying evil Nazi protest. I wouldn't want to be that guy, that's for sure. I think a huge part of the political failures, besides the lack of resources and power, is something I would call playing the role. Basically, the system provides you a template to follow, even for dissident activity. These false models are used. It may not be intentional, just how culture media is having a ton of shorthand on how to behave in a society. So I'll just stop there. I think that's an interesting thing, like the idea that even as a dissident, you're playing the accepted role of a dissident, and that makes sense. There's also another one here that I thought was very interesting. I'll just switch to it now. He's talking about George Lincoln Rockwell. Here's the way he's responding to Blammo 2000. Says, say what you want about Rockwell. He basically used the look at me Nazi aesthetics to gain media attention. He gave speeches at universities, had interviews in newspapers, and whatnot. At the time, people in the U.S. still believed in freedom of speech. Now, this guy named Puncho Bo has some good points. And this echoes something that a good friend of ours, a decent enough guy named Fortisac said, because we talked about George Lincoln Rockwell. And a lot of people point out that George Lincoln Rockwell, the creator of the American Nazi Party, he was going around, he had the hate bus, drove around a bus that said hate bus and waved a Nazi flag. And a lot of people have pointed out, well, if he couldn't get away with that back then, when he probably could get away with that stuff, what use do you have of trying to effectively do the same thing now? Because remember, the National Justice Party went out of its way to look as Third Reichy as possible.
Yeah.
When in fact they could have taken a design. Like I always look towards the European movements, the European far-right movements, because they dared to like try and get a new symbol that doesn't just look like a swastika. It's not red and black and white.
And another thing, Rockwell, he wasn't that handsome, but he was a tall guy. He was a war veteran. He was extremely witty and well-spoken, great public speaker. So like, I don't know how you can't look at this and say they gave it a really good shot, possibly the best possible shot at the best opportunity, and it didn't work. And somebody in our chat had said, I'm sure this has been said a lot, but that you were literally taking the position of the enemy that we just fought. Like they just drafted your citizens to fight this global enemy for 10 years.
That's a great point.
And now you want to pretend to be them. This is just, I'm not saying you're wrong. It's just politically, in terms of narrative, it's not going to work, man. You got to be realistic about this.
Let me just
take every component of it, but you got to change the colors in the flag at least.
Let me just say this, because this is kind of a deep topic that I understand where they're coming from with that. And what's interesting is you could almost have a media analysis narrative just on this alone, that the stated reason why they would employ the swastika is because that's the one thing you're not supposed to do. It symbolizes the acute amalgamation of all the oppression. Like that's the one thing you're not supposed to do. And because you say we can't, we're going to do it. Like that's just the biggest exclamation point we can muster against this system. So, and what's interesting, if you really want to get into sort of a meta-analysis of this, is that now more than ever before, the swastika is separated from its original thing. Now, remember the swastika, going back to like Rene Guénon esotericist sort of thing. It
Yeah.
goes back to the Indian sort of stuff. There's like an esoteric background to that, but then that got adopted by the Nazis. Now, I think it's more accurate to say that the most people, when they use a swastika, is in an edgy contrarian sense.
Mm-hmm.
That it's so separated from its original meaning, even at the time of the Third Reich, that if you see a swastika now, your gut reaction is, oh, this person is trying to be edgy.
Right.
So when you wave the swastika and you want it to represent white people, I don't even think it represents white people. I don't think it represents Germany anymore.
No,
I think
a
it
meme.
is. It has been co-opted so much over the decades by edgy pop culture people that it just means, I'm trying to be edgy like that. There is
Even-
nothing animating. There's nothing energizing about that symbol.
Forget
Okay.
the symbol for a second and just look at all of the regalia and the aesthetic that goes with it. Like we were joking, that one Star Wars movie that came out a few years ago, and they made the Empire Nazis. Like they had red armbands and they had they're marching and they're goose stepping and they have big red banners waving in the wind on a wintry landscape with black Gothic buildings. And it's like, okay, this is mimetically, this is the Third Reich. That's what you're doing here. But it doesn't mean the Third Reich as in German National Socialism. It's not people fighting to get their land back. They're not taking revenge against Jewish power. It's not any of these things. They're not building highways. They're not guaranteeing food for mothers and work for the fathers like the National Socialists did. What they're doing is just saying, bad guy. He's a bad guy. It's literally like Trump derangement syndrome. That's what it is at this point. It's a meme that means bad dudes.
Yeah, and we're not giving a value judgment. It's like that is my assessment of the effect that symbol has on people right now, whether we like it or not. Similarly, another reason is that I would always say that the swastika, even if you believe all that, the reason it would never take off, why I think it never really took off with George Lincoln Rockwell, isn't necessarily because it was offensive. It was just because it was foreign.
Yeah.
It's a foreign symbol. People, if they didn't know anything about Nazi Germany, they knew it was a German thing.
Yeah.
Why are you doing a German thing? You're an American, which is why I think any far right group that adopts American symbology has a better chance in adopting, it's like people over here who adopt like Islamic resistance imagery to rebel against system. Like it just seems foreign to people. There's nothing, even if you're not offended by it, there's nothing that speaks to you that would like draw you towards it. Because that's what you want to do with the symbol. You want to spark some fire inside of them. And I don't think for most people, maybe some people really like it and speaks to them, but I think for most people, they would just see it as like a weird foreign thing. And why is this guy, as much as a great orator and as a Chad as he might be, what I don't get this. A lot of Americans I just think didn't get it. And here, just to get to the post here, what are you saying about Rockwell? Rockwell was a carny who couldn't gain mass appeal at a time when segregationism was mainstream. George Wallace was one of the most powerful politicians in America. Both parties claimed to support states' rights. Southern newspapers attacked the civil rights movement daily. Pastors condemned interracial dating from the pulpits. MLK was widely hated. The neocons did not exist and nobody cared if they criticized Israel. So that kind of speaks my point that if that symbol didn't take off then, that must mean that there's something with that symbol that just, it was alien to people and it just wasn't made relevant to their lives. And I think this is what I'm trying to get to, for any movement going forward, anything that you want to have any sort of mass appeal, you need to meet people where they live. You need to use the symbology that they're familiar with. If you want an American audience, you can't speak to them like they're 20th century Germans. You just fucking
Yin
can't.
in the chat just said Patriot Front is doing it correctly. Same with New Columbus Movement and AF. They look American. And you know me, I hate AF. I despise them. But if there's one thing that those faggots have correct, they are right down the center lane. It's a fucking strike with their aesthetic. It's perfect, immaculate boomer East Coast American Zoomer East Coast American aesthetic. They got the broccoli cut. They got the hand language, the gesticulation, the mode of speech. Like it's fucking perfect. That's the reason everybody follows them. Like you think people follow them because they're gay pedophiles? No, of course not. That's a disadvantage. They follow them because they're. Yeah. I mean, Nick Fuentes is actually pretty charismatic. He's entertaining to watch. So I mean, and you don't have to like that. It didn't help them. I don't think it helped them at all when he went with Kanye and started dunking on Jews openly as like a bit. I don't think they gained a lot of traction personally by doing that. I don't know.
Well, the irony is that, like you said before, now if they just went for race stuff, for pro-white stuff, it might have had more traction. I don't want to speculate too much, but I'd be more interested. And we'll get to this. There's actually a post here that mentions this. Hold on, let me just I'm just trying to find the post here. Getting rid of that. So I just say something not about the well again. Hold on. Read some comments if you can.
Not about the well. My boss is brown, and out of nowhere, he decided to go back on vacation yesterday and fly to Lebanon. My boss is in Lebanon. And I thought, that's a weird time to go to Lebanon. It's weird, right?
Yeah.
It is.
Okay,
The answer is
hold
yes,
on.
it's weird.
Here we go. Okay.
I'm just dunking on AF in the chat because I hate
Yeah.
them.
Here we go. This is from Breadbasket with 2 S's. Wonder what that could refer to. The alt-right as a movement seems to have suffered from far too many of the prominent individuals that were seen as leaders of it actually in reality. Let's cycle that one into our conversation. Actually, in reality, turning out to be grifters who were more willing to make money than attempt any political moves of value to advance the cause they said they advocated for. If there were any big takeaways from the alt-right as a movement, they are this. And this is why I wanted some comments on if people want to. 1, dig deep into anyone who puts words to your frustrations and consider their character before taking anything they say seriously. I think that's a great point. All whites won't just rise up. There will always be a segment of the population who have vested and moral interests in opposing white nationalism. This is a big one. And this is something that I think we are hashing out right now about and to their credit, this is something that I think the TRS guys have seen. A lot of us are shocked with how many white people are so genocidal against themselves or so tolerant of their own dispossession and torture publicly. And so I don't know what to do with those people. It's very difficult for me. Some of them are just going along with the flow. That's fine. But there's some like diehard white people who hate white people. And that's a phenomenon I don't see reflected in most other identities. It seems unique to whites. And people say, oh, that's because they're brainwashed. I'm like, yeah, but it's deep, man. It's really fucking deep. And it's in like the white leadership too, so like they're a lot of the ones who are like cheering on mass migration. And I don't know don't expect them to be red pilled, I think is the idea. Number 4, the system will most likely not be fair to you as of this time when it comes to the court systems and law enforcement. This is a big one. This is where we need more professional networks. Essentially do what Antifa does. Classism amongst people that should theoretically be in the same political movement creates unnecessary enemies and infighting. Put some issues or arguments aside to face a common enemy and then worry about them once some level of success can be achieved. Now, this is what we discussed when we talked about the book Experiences in Groups by Wilfred Bion. Just to quickly summarize that, this was a group psychology experiment that saw how people who are arranged in groups behave. And you notice there's 2 types of groups. There is the basic assumption group, and then there is the work group. A basic assumption group is to get a bunch of people. This will sound very familiar to what we see on the right currently. A bunch of people who get together and they're trying to figure out what to do next. They're trying to figure out, who they are and devise their identity. And then they start electing strange leaders. And they have all these strange group dynamics that you don't see in the other group known as a work group. A work group is what it sounds like. It's any group of people who are on a mission, who have a task they need to accomplish. And what they find is a lot of the issues and group dynamics that plague the other group are completely subsumed in the work group. They might be there. You might not have the same religion. You might not have the same values, but you could actually put those aside more easily if you have a fucking goal. And if people will recall, this is what the alt-right was. The alt-right does not exist without Trump. The alt-right doesn't really exist without getting Trump elected. People recall that time when they said, man, remember when everyone kind of got along? There was this vibrancy and this fear. I'm like, yeah, because we put a lot of shit aside and we put a lot on this one guy. And then we tried to get that momentum. We were all swept up in this momentum. People who don't really have a lot in common, a lot of Christians, a lot of pagans, a lot of people with leftist tendencies, rightists. They were all in line for this one brief conflagration. But that's the whole point about a work group is eventually the mission ends. Eventually you either accomplish or fail to accomplish whatever you were going after, and then you need a next thing. We don't have a next thing. We actually don't have a goal right now. And maybe that's good because maybe we actually need some time, a few years to hash some shit out, to discuss some ideas. There's a lot of great discussions and debates happening on the right. But I think now is the time. I just get this feeling that now is the time to pick some kind of goal. And I think a lot of people are doing that I'm seeing a lot of people doing this now, actually creating sort of parallel societies, buying land. The Woodlander is doing this right now. Another man by the name of Arval, he's doing that. There's a lot of guys starting these parallel societies, and doing a pretty good job of it. I wish them all the best, and I think I'm seeing stuff happen.
You know, I like this actually in the chat just now. One said the goal is the 14 words. If you're down with that, then I'm with you. We can work out the other shit after. That's my take in it. And somebody was just needling me in the chat a minute ago, very politely, but the fact that my wife is Asian and my kids are Hapa, and I get it. You know, I get a lot of guys don't like that. And I'm not telling you have to listen to my show or donate. That's okay. You know, I don't bear any ill will and I'm still pro-white. But to me, those 14 words are more or less the important thing. We need a home. We need a future for our children. So you don't think my kids are white? That's cool. I still want a home and a future for my kids. And this land that I'm standing on belongs to me and my wife. And it's the future for our family and our people. And, you know, I'm white. If you don't think we're white, that's fine. But we're allies. And regardless what you're just saying, like what the Woodlander is doing, that is not just the next step. I think that's a step that can be rolled forward almost indefinitely and become a long-term principle of the whole civilization, right? You can't let go of your land, your soil, right? And the future for your kids.
Yeah. Well, that's why when I talked to like Frody Midyard from Guide to Culture, which is another interview that will probably go up next week, you know, I think a lot of us are at the point where we're on the same page. Like, yes, we need to retribalize. Yes, we need a community. Yes, we'll have all different types of communities. But what does that look like? What's the first step, second step, third step? How much money does it cost? Like, let's talk practical shit. And I think that's an exciting phase to be at, where it's not just theory. It's not just, we're not trying to red pill anyone. Like maybe all the people who can be red pilled have been red pilled. And this is what we were talking about in the chat. And even on the show recently, that it seems that everyone's red pilled on race. Everyone's talking about race. And, you know, the past few years have been us getting everything we wanted. Let's look at a couple of things that happened. One, we've had probably the largest campaign against the ADL within my lifetime, care of, you know, Keith Woods and Elon Musk and others, right? Creating that sort of grassroots movement. There's people talking about how the ADL is a Zionist organization in the negative. That was unthinkable a few years ago. We had Kanye West, arguably, I'd say one of the top 5 celebrities on earth, literally just posting threads from Paul on mainstream platforms. It was a point where here's why those things matter, because everyone on the water cooler, your aunts, everyone had to have an opinion on it. They couldn't pretend that discussion wasn't happening. A few years ago, that was unthinkable. We got everything we wanted. But what happened? Nothing. Everyone was red-pilled on the JQ. Everybody, every race, both genders, everyone knew what we say. And then what happened? Nothing. Okay, so that's not the answer. Awareness isn't the answer. Red pilling isn't the answer. It's got to be something else. We won that. So we need a debrief, like this whole video we're doing right now. It's a debrief. What the fuck did we learn? What the fuck did we learn from, you know, we got Twitter back. Good. So what now? We got the Republicans talking about the great replacement, great white replacement. Not only talking about great replacement, they're talking about great replacement in the context of white people. That is a national narrative right now. So what now? And this is a problem we've always had on this side. We don't plan for success. And that was one thing I said about America First. It was that, Nick Fuentes, what was the Groyper movement? The Groyper movement was really Patrick Casey, if we're going to give credit where credit's due. Nick Fuentes did not invent the term Groyper. That was a 4chan thing. He did not invent the imagery. That whole movement that was going to Charlie Kirk's events and holding his feet to the fire publicly, that was Patrick Casey and a few other guys. Nick Fuentes just watched from his green screen room and clapped and hugged a pumpkin and shit. He didn't do Nick Fuentes didn't do anything for that. That was all a few other guys. Anyway, point being that the whole movement was holding conservatism and the GOP to account on anti-Zionism stuff. But here's the funny thing, and on race stuff. Now they just absorbed those arguments. Now, fucking Charlie Kirk is out there just saying Nick Fuentes talking points.
Yeah.
Just like the NJP. Now, mainstream people are talking about great replacement stuff. Tucker Carlson is saying all this stuff. What now? We never thought ahead. We never thought ahead for what happens when the mainstream starts adopting these talking points. We don't have a plan for the day after. We never have. That's our problem. You know what I mean? We don't plan for success. And I think there's this virus inside of us as dissidents where we don't truly believe that we'll ever win. It never occurred to us that the things we're saying could ever have popular support. So we're kind of surprised and unprepared when it does.
Yeah.
And that's where we are right now. They're saying our shit.
Yep.
So now what do we do? Well, the NJP's solution was tell them to go fuck themselves and don't try and get on those shows,
Yeah.
Or go deeper. But yeah, if part of the debrief is we need to start planning for our own success and actually believing we can, because I think part of our identity as dissidents is we want to always be on the outside. Right. And I think that's a problem. And that's something these threads here are getting.
You know what? I mean, maybe I disagree, or maybe we're saying the same thing, but I think that if we are the ones with the experience being a vanguard and moving the window in a certain direction, I don't think the next step for us is to say, oh, that's great that the mainstream has adopted us. Now we can adopt the mainstream. We can move in and we can all do Tucker and Charlie Kirk interviews. I don't think so. I think if they're going to carry water for us, they're down the ladder. That's fine. Let them do that. We move on to the next thing. I don't think, I think we need to figure out as the vanguard, what is the next move for the vanguard to continue pushing the window. And, to what we were talking about a minute ago, that's what it is we need to actually, I was going to say we need to harvest, right? Now the message is getting out broadly. Now is our chance to reach out to people who are hearing this for the first time. The seed is planted in their mind. We can start actually drawing on these people. I think in the next couple of years, maybe even just the next 9 months, you're going to see an enormous swell of people across demographics, across age groups, who are willing to hear a more extreme vision of how to organize businesses and communities and families and churches. And I'm talking about meat space shit. We can actually go out there and do this in the real world now in a way that we couldn't in 2019. So it's very exciting, actually.
Keep trying to post these comments. Keep fucking it up. Here's one just from user one who's been saying a lot of very sensible things here. They didn't want to align with any of their groups. They're doing it all wrong. We're the only ones doing it right, and it drove me nuts. Yep. All right, so we're going back to the thread. Do not aim to play into the hands of the mainstream media unless it is a necessity that has to occur. Fair enough. I think a lot of us, Richard Spencer is a great example of this, as a guy who's always trying to court mainstream press, and it never kind of went well for him at the beginning, because, to give credit to Richard Spencer, he said a few things that I like recently. He was on Millennial.
He did. It was spooky, actually. He was sounding very reasonable there for the first time.
I have a clip here. If I can figure out how to get this clip to play with the audio, I'll play, because I have a few video clips here. What Richard Spencer did at the time was he put a more acceptable face on white nationalism, because you have to remember, when you said a white nationalist to the average person, what did they imagine? a fat, dumpy, 80 IQ
Yeah.
redneck. And here's this guy
Here's
who's
this guy who's a slimy gay liberal with a gay haircut and a lisp, telling you all about the wonders of white nationalism.
Amazing.
true. But you know, he's a face to put forward, and he's on some other stuff now. I won't get into it, but so let's just go back to this. Fighting with extreme leftists and holding public protests or rallies are things that may occur, but always be aware they only so much potential. They offer, I guess you're gonna say they offer so much potential political value. So he's saying like fighting, like us fighting with Antifa, fighting with leftists. That's kind of for us. That's not to grow the thing. You know, when we watch the Proud Boys beat up Antifa, that's just for us. I don't know if that's for anyone else. Or maybe it makes Antifa look like fags. That too. Acquiring a wealthy donor or some kind of mainstream political ally can be good, but it only makes a difference if the people receiving the support they give are capable of putting it to good use. And the last one is optics can only go so far. There's a lot there. There's a lot to discuss. Optics is an interesting word. That's sort of a dirty word on our side to think optically. And so when people say optics, what I think goes through their head is saying that, oh, you're putting on a show for people. You're trying to fake it. You know, you're trying to create a character. I take a different approach because my background is in marketing and advertising. And one point that we've made throughout this entire thing is you need to meet people where they are. You need to speak their language. You need to make what you're saying relevant to them. And I don't think that's what the NJP did. And this goes back to the very beginning of this, we said, which is, do you need to be pro-white or anti-Semitic? I think you need to be pro. If you're just anti-Semitic, you're not offering anything. What's in it for me to be anti-Semitic? And I mean that call it materialist, call it self-interested, but how does my life improve if the Jews are gone? Like, you need to be explicit. If I'm pro-white, I can say, here's the things we are for. Here's the things we like. We're pro-family. We're pro. But if you're just, it's very difficult. And I know some people might disagree with this, but it's actually difficult to rally people long-term with just hate. You do need a positive vision. And I think that's where the pro-white thing is sort of.
Positive is
continue.
the key thing. Because I was saying earlier too, if you're anti-Semitic, you're not anti-Semitic because you don't like the way they look, although that might be part of it. The real reason you're anti-Semitic is because you're white and they keep trying to destroy your civilization. That's why you hate them, right? So really what it is you're pro-white. Now, if you forget being anti-Semitic for a minute, imagine you've never even heard of Jews. All you want to do is protect white people. You're going to go out there, and if you just think through all of these decisions, you're going to wind up doing things that antagonize Jews. Why? Because Jews are our existential enemies. You're not going to be able to defend white people without fighting Jews. It's going to happen, okay? And how do I know this? The proof is in the pudding. Every time we go and say, can we just have rights for white people? Can we just not have affirmative action? Can we have our schools back? Can we not have textbooks teaching our children that we're evil? Apparently that's anti-Semitic. We get called white nationalists, white supremacists, and anti-Semites for literally just defending ourselves. So there's your proof right there, okay? You don't have to be actively anti-Semitic. You should have a positive principle that says, I'm white, and I will defend my people, I'll defend my civilization. And then guess what? If you do that, you are very shortly going to be going toe-to-toe with a bunch of Jews because they are actually our enemies in the real world. But you're correct. Your principle should not just be anti-Jewish. You're gonna get routed immediately if you do that, and that's what happened to NJP.
You'll get routed into some very perplexing anti-white, positions. And I think long term, that's where you'll end up. I think eventually, if you keep going, you'll end up suicidal because you'll just be so angry that white people aren't anti-Semitic enough that you'll say fuck white people entirely. Yeah. That's where you end up. That's the ultimate position for that thinking. So here's another one by the tall man. I liked a bunch of the comments he says here. I'm just going to read them. There is no magical charisma that allows someone to counter trillions worth of propaganda. The one thing that smaller dissident groups can use is truth, because propaganda based on truth is far more potent than propaganda based on lies. Propaganda based on lies does need like the backing of violence and some kind of state to really create a Pavlovian response in people. People who rise to political power either suck up to the existing oligarchy or they are the front of an organized and dedicated group. All the NJP had to do was be more organized and not retarded. Deep down, they all know they don't want to grow and become relevant to a point where they would have to butt heads with the establishment. That's an interesting point. The flag of the A was red because people died fighting against the establishment for the movement. The flag of the NJP is red because they like how the Nazi flag looks. I couldn't, just as a great summary to what we were talking about, couldn't have put it better myself.
Yep.
Also, they are 99% against something and only 1% for something. That's not how you grow and be successful. Imagine a Kickstarter for a computer mouse, and all the campaign does is tell you how the ergonomics of that other mouse suck and the other sensor of yet another mouse is garbage. That's the NJP, AF, and many other right-wing movements. If your vision isn't clear and a positive goal your organization can work towards, doomed to fail and fall into irrelevant squabbling.
Yeah.
Remember, enemies are essential. Picking a target, picking something you want to attack has a great unifying force, but it's only in the short term.
Yeah.
What you need is a chain of those things. And this is what they've always said about leftists. Leftists and Antifa are fantastic at this. When they pick a target, they beat it to death until it's a smear on the fucking pavement. Then they move right on to the next one. They never stop attacking. And that's why a lot of the alt-right and a lot of the conservatives like, oh my God, these people, they never stop. That's a feature, not a bug. That's not just their mental illness. That's a strategy. The strategy is you're never assuaged. The strategy is that you're never happy. That's how you fucking win. You don't win until you occupy all the territory, which is something that, you know, some of us still struggle with. And that's why I was saying, what you're saying earlier, like, I forget what I was saying, but you need to be a bully. You need to, we were on the Sunflower Society stream about the Bud Light campaign. People are trying to let up. No. Destroy Bud Light. Be mean. You must be a bully. We need to teach people how to decimate. And I'm not trying to be like, I'm not talking about actual violence. I'm like, if you are targeting a corporation, don't let up because they learned their lesson. You need to make examples. We're made examples of all the fucking time. They don't rest until we are suicidal.
To clarify, we're not saying like Sven going out and just like mocking everybody because he's a sadomasochist, but like if being, you know, righteous anger, a righteous attack. So if you've already couched all of your arguments genuinely in the truth and you are, you know, you're an authentic and righteous person, then you can do something like that. Like we're in the position where the whole right-wing mainstream has already grabbed onto the shit that, you know, Bud Light as an example is literally destroying our children. You should not let go of that. You should make sure every single Bud Light facility in the world burns to the ground, figuratively. But you know what I mean, right? Like you can't let go of that once you've got it because you're right. And people have finally understood that you're right about it. You like James Nopa just said in the chat, propaganda based on truth takes a long time and a ton of effort to disseminate. It does. So when you actually get a ball rolling, if you ignore it and you drop the ball, you fucking idiot. This is one of the most valuable things if you can actually hold on to that.
Yeah, here's another post here from Agenda Poster. A lot of good things here. I'm just going to read it. There are no mistakes. It's simply how politics works, always caught in an endless cycle of action and reaction. Movements like the AR, the alt-right, are just a pleb doing some timid attempt at revolt. But in the West, there's too much terminal onlineism. I like that, terminal onlineism and fatness for things to work. Also, people are genuinely retarded. They think they can poke the power structures and deconstruct the holiest cows only to say, I was shitposting, I swear, when found out. Just 100 to 200 years ago, people knew very well that fucking with monarchs, the rich, the banks, meant engaging in a life and death struggle. They understood it was not for fun. When there were present revolts where I live, I don't know where this person lives, but people got tortured in the most horrendous ways if caught out and their bodies left to rot in the public market or hanging. I guess this could also be a callback to the Irish revolutions. Apparently everyone's an expert on Irish shit. So someone tell me the fucking page number citation where, you know, there's an example of this, but I think this was happening even recently in Ireland. And like the IRA and the Irish nationalists were very aware of what the stakes were for what they were doing. When the pleb will finally understand that it's all or nothing and you need to go all in and try to decapitate the Hydra, things will change, but not sooner. You cannot have both real world transgression against billionaires and a comfy life in a secluded community of high middle class people. All right. Also, the actual right needs to understand that they are not the elites, at least not anymore. The right is the outcasts, the chuds. There's no truly right wing billionaires. There's no elite that will lead. Before any success, the right needs to understand the rich, even those who are not Jewish, are the enemy, regardless of how much it sounds like, oh my God, communism. Um, Here's my take on that. I disagree slightly. I think that the dissident right, a lot of people listening to this show, a lot of our listeners, they're from a whole cornucopia of beliefs. We got right wingers with leftists, we got anarchists, we got atheists, we got Christians, we got pagans. There's a great cross section of the dissident right listens to our show, and I get to speak to them all the time. I'm honored to be able to call them people that I know, and I'm often inspired by the things they tell me about things that I don't understand. Um, I don't think we're ever going to find one elite or billionaire or influential person that speaks to all of our
No.
goals.
No.
And I think that what you can do is find an array of various influential people that hit every single multiple policy points. Like, for example, Elon Musk seems to be pretty pilled on free speech. He's not going to go with you on the Jewish stuff. He's just not.
No.
And a lot of people are saying, "Oh, he's secretly doing it." I don't think he is.
No. No.
But that's good enough. He's the guy for that.
He's also a technocrat. Like, he's going to put fucking chips in our brains and plunge us into a dystopia if you let him. So there's a lot of things to hate about him, but there's a lot of things that you can use him as a resource on if you could get him on your side. So
yeah, there's going to be another billionaire elite who will intersect with us on technological stuff. There'll be another one that intersects with us on migration. You know, like, make a list of all of our policy positions. How would you make America, Europe better? You can think of 12 things, specific things. You can
Right.
find an individual. This is what, not to go into this. This is actually what Hitler did. If you read the history, most of these revolutionaries, they will find entrenched elites who have a common enemy. Like, Hitler did appeal to the conservatives of the time and the anti-communists at the time. So you can find anti-communist elites. Now, they won't align with you on anything else, but all you need them for is anti-communist projects. Get a portfolio, of projects, and then find investors for that. But
See,
you won't
this is
find
the
one
thing.
philosopher king.
We were pissing on Endeavor about this the other night, that the idea that these elites exist and they could possibly be our guys, and we should essentially just, sit on our hands and wait for them to swoop in and save us. And never mind the fact that no elite will ever support everything that we want, because they have completely different motivations from us, because they're not us. They're not peasants. They're elites. But then the other part of it is, even if you did find one that supported everything that you want, the whole purpose of the elite is to serve us, not the other way around. You shouldn't be looking at him as a leader at all. You should be looking at him, like you said, as a resource. This is somebody who can provide mentorship. He can provide money. He can provide material resources. He can provide networking opportunities, some guidance. There's a lot of things that these guys are going to help us with, and they're absolutely critical. But they're not the leaders. We're the leaders. The leadership, in my opinion, or at least the figurehead or the spirit of the group, is always going to come from us. It's never going to come from them. And that's the thing that pisses me off the most about that idea of waiting for that special elite to come and save you. If it even happens, I would be terrified of it, because being led by one of those elites is going to lead you to destruction anyways, because they're not you, man. They're a totally different class of people. Like, they're never going to understand you, bro.
That's it. Like, do you want the elites to like you? No, you should not give a
They
shit.
should fear
You
you.
should have confidence, and you should be aware of what your interests are. And this is something we've said on the show before, that a big problem on our side of things is we're near on what our self-interests really are. We'll talk about, we need to have self-interest, but what are we sure about what they are? Because if you're sure, you don't need elites to like you. That's what people want. Like, I want to find the elites that agrees with me on everything. You don't need that. Capital. Full stop. Capital and resources. And you need the ability to allocate them. You don't even need for them to like you, and you shouldn't be seeking out our guys. You don't need our backslash our guys. We don't need that. What we need is fucking investors
Yeah.
for the projects that we believe in, that we're confident in. And maybe that's a mutual aid network. Maybe that's finding the billionaires who are libertarian minded, who just love the idea of a parallel society. They're ambivalent on if it's a white society, but they will throw money at, hey, we're going to create a self-sustaining town outside the system. And we're not going to tell them that it's like aligned with a certain group of people. There's ways to do this. And here's a post here, once again from Blake 1000. And this is what we keep coming back to. When having a movement, religion, or whatever, you actually need to consider what people get out of supporting it. Being in the far right gets you nothing and can cost you everything. Not the best deal if you have things to lose. It's not even the conscious self that'll make the judgment, but rather the subconscious. And by the way, this becomes more pronounced the older you get. Once you get families, once you get jobs, this is why so many people just backed away from the dissident right. It couldn't answer what's in it for me. I'm putting up all the risk. And you can say, oh, it's living in the truth. Absolutely. You can live in the truth in the darkness too, which is what a lot of people chose. A lot of people decided to believe what they believe, but stay safe away from this thing because it's just nothing but risk to them and the people they care about. Because no one at the fucking NJP answered the question, what's in it for me? All they said was, you owe us money.
I was going to say a minute ago, when you have a negative principle, you've got from a marketing standpoint, it's a negative value proposition. Any involvement that you have, the only thing you can do is insult and attack and fight and destroy. That's all we're offering you, is the opportunity for destruction. People who have families and jobs, they want the opportunity to save and protect and defend and secure and build and construct. That's what they need, right? So if you want to appeal to these people on a subconscious level, and ironically, these are the people that you want. Married people with jobs and money and homes and trucks and trailers. These are the guys you want. Those guys, you need a positive value add. You need a positive value proposition. You need to say, if you work with us and you donate your time, this is what you're going to get. You're going to have a more stable community. You're going to have a church. You're going to have, we're going to have city leaders who listen to you. We're going to get rid of the unsavory elements in your town. These are the actual constructive things. And you don't have to say, I hate Jews to do that. You don't have to say it.
Yeah. And also, I could spend some time on this, and I'm sure some people might push back on this, but on the right, we love collapse scenarios. And, I'm prone to these flights of fantasy just like anyone else. But, when I listen to, the Alex McNabbs or that ilk hoping for the collapse of America, like sometimes speak to someone who's old enough to remember what it was like living in one of those former Soviet bloc countries after the fall of the Soviets. Speak to people who've lived in a collapse. You have no idea how bad it gets when rape is money and the cops are just another gang that robs you.
Yeah.
And like, you have no idea, like when you hear stories in these countries, again, some Eastern European towns where like you're selling your children into prostitution. It's unthinkable, but they did it. And maybe that'll be you. Do you know how bad things can get if everything goes to shit? I bet you haven't really thought about it. I bet you just have this like Fallout fantasy, but like just everyone take a break. You know who doesn't like war? Veterans. You know who doesn't like violence? People who have seen the dark capabilities of the human animal against each other. Like, just take a pause for a second. And if all you're selling me is collapse, blow your own fucking brains out. Like, talk to anyone that's really experienced this shit. It's not something you desire. And everyone says that they talk about the hyperoidal cycle where it's like hard times create strong men. Not always. What's actually a more common historical narrative? Hard times create weak men forever.
Yep.
It creates civilizations that never rise up. And once they're 5 generations in, they forget what it was like when they had a good civilization. The world is full of people that were once great and never achieved greatness again. That's more common. So don't fucking tell me that's going to make us rise from the ashes. It could just lead us to being fucking 80 IQ raped people forever.
It seems like the truth of it historically has been that good times always create weak men. and hard times occasionally, if you're lucky, produce strong men. So there's loads of ways to produce weak men, and only a couple of rare instances of strong men ever being produced. So yeah.
Yeah.
Like you go
So-
through that cycle of destruction for 500 years before you finally land on a new combination that results in stability.
Just to keep, I'm going to finish up this post here. Of course, funny how NJP is an LLC. It is a business, yet they never seem to stop and ask, what is our product? Who are our customers? What value do we provide said customers? They just pulled the standard niche politics trick of, oh, it's the white population's self-interest to support us just because we say we are the racist Lorax and we speak for whites. That's bullshit. It's like the opening a restaurant, just expecting your customer base, everybody on the planet who eats. Meh. For TRS, the aforementioned questions are way simpler to answer. They make podcasts. The audience are people who are fed up with the mainstream, and they gain value by being entertained, making connections with other listeners, and not feeling alone. Boom. And again, we come back to this was the pool parties. What they had originally was a pro-white decentralized community that was networked in a very organic way, and that's gone. It's done, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that was almost it for the post. I know we're getting up to we're at 2.5 hours now of the show. Let me just I'm looking at a couple comments here. Here's one. If the Jews are permanently out of power, would the collapse be worth it? I mean, if there is a collapse, like the collapse of America, I don't think that ends up with Jews destroyed in a sense. Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to get very, very explicit here that maybe will get us kicked from YouTube. Let's say you view Zionism as a virus, which is Jews didn't found America. Jews didn't create America. And we covered this in an interesting book called Tri-Faith America. It was by a guy named Schultz. But it was about how the Catholics and the Jews effectively subverted the Protestant movements in America and used Protestantism against itself, preaching tolerance and whatnot. But if you do accept that Jews just showed up one day and subverted, like they have done across time, I don't think the end of the American civilization really ends with the destruction of the Jewish people, frankly. And I think if you look at what's going on in Israel, you can see an easy pivot that the Israelis could do if they lost American support. I could see a reality where Jews and Israelis actually broker deals and rely more. They start selling the narrative of their own POC status as Middle Eastern status. They could actually turn against America if they saw America failing and broker new deals.
Yeah.
Like I could see Israel, and some other geopolitical people have discussed this. I could see Israel brokering a deal with the House of Saud,
or China
and Iran,
Yeah.
for their own, like, pretty determined people. I see a pathway out of this where the destruction of America and Europe resorting to sort of a multipolar configuration doesn't end with the destruction of the Jews. So like that's sort of a fantasy at that point. And this is what I want to avoid, like white people committing suicide with the hopes that they can take down Zionism with them. I just don't see it happening.
The inverse is also true. Like cutting that influence out of our civilization and restoring ourselves doesn't necessarily mean destroying ourselves. I think we're here. I'll tell you this, from an economic and an industrial standpoint, a demographic standpoint, if we don't do something about this question that we're talking about, we're going to collapse regardless. We're already sliding downhill rapidly, and it accelerates every month. So I don't see how removing them is going to make it that much worse. I think it will actually make it better in the medium term. I can't imagine it making it worse. So
yeah, here's a line that I think, again, this Blamo individual, I promise isn't us. I don't think, unless you got a poster, because this person sounds like you a lot of the time. There's this line here. I would say first principles are better than ideology overall.
That does sound like me.
What people want, being mostly left alone, but belong to a group as well. Having cold beer, warm pussy in a place with a door to shit in. I assume he means washroom, not just a house that you shit in. That makes sense. It doesn't have the baggage or weird mental gymnastics with it. And this is something like that sounds like, oh, here's just want to grill nationalism again. But like, no, but that is the stuff. Like, there is a self-interest even in traditionalist societies, even in pre-Christian societies. There was an organization of society that understood that the fundamental building block of that society, of that monarchy, was the household.
Yes.
You can
Yes,
be
absolutely.
anti-individualist and understand that it's the family and the household that is the indivisible brick of society. I think a lot
Yes.
of people would agree with that. However, within the household, traditionally, the state didn't hold sway over the house. That was a place for the folkways, the
Right.
religions. And so at the end of the day, people still want that. And a lot of our guys, that's all we desperately want. You go talk to these young men, the incel problem. What is the incel problem? They'll say, oh, why don't you just pay a prostitute? Because the incel guys, not
That's not the
true
problem.
incels, true incels are oftentimes fucking psychos, like the real dark guys. But most guys who say they're incels, they want a girlfriend. They want a relationship.
They want to be loved. They want to feel needed and appreciated. That's like, we can make it about sex because that feels more masculine. But the truth is men, I think more than women, men need to be loved and appreciated. Men need to, like tools or machines, need to be used or they will rust and fall apart.
You know
And
what?
that's what's missing.
I heard this story. I forget where I read it, so don't fact check me on this. But it was some story from some European country during World War II. Might have been Britain, and it was during after the air raid sirens went down. There was a bombing campaign on the town or the
I remember
city,
this.
and they in the insane asylum. It might have even been Mikhail Foucault who said this, because it was a study
was.
on mental illness and madness.
Yeah.
They said that all these people who are in asylums who are totally neurotic,
They were catatonic. They were catatonic, which means you're sick to the point that you don't move. You're alive and you're fed through a tube and you stare at the wall for weeks and don't, you're like in a waking coma.
They said that once they gave these people something to do, and that was like driving around, picking up dead bodies, picking up the rubble, they like snapped out of it. Like there was an urgency, there was
Right.
a task, there was like you have a
People
duty.
who hadn't spoken or moved even from their beds in weeks or months suddenly jumped out of their beds, put their boots on, and started putting out fires and getting in trucks to rescue people. Yeah.
And people want to say like, oh, what about the hikikomori in Japan? These young people who don't want to leave their apartments. What about these Zoomers who don't want to get a job? Like that's what this is. They are on their way to being culturally and oftentimes totally psychologically catatonic because they don't have a dude, because they don't have this. This is the bedrock of what we're talking about.
Here's a social experiment. This is kind of a joke, but I also think it would probably work. You take a bunch of hikikomori, you capture them, you kidnap them in the middle of the night, you put them in a Huey, in a Black Hawk helicopter, and you give them assault rifles and 200 rounds of ammunition, and you drop them into Uganda and say, if you can make it to the palace and kill the president, you will live. I bet they'd do it.
Yeah.
I bet they'd probably be the best fucking guys, or at least they would fight with more spirit than a bunch
Also,
of...
why do these people why do they like video games so much?
Yeah.
It gives them duty. It gives them they're looking for mission.
It's a surrogate activity because their lives are devoid of purpose. Yeah.
Also, there was a question here that I think might be too big for this stream. I'm just going to have it back up here. This is based in New Mexico. Any thoughts on the civilizational effect of a culture having a linear teleology versus a cyclical one? This is something we've been addressing on the show in one form or another, even most recently with E. Michael Jones's Logos Rising. That's a very deep question. I don't know if we can take a detour on that now, because that's the separation.
To the next stream.
That sits at the center of the Christian versus pagan debate too.
Yeah.
About the pagan ritual, and we covered Eliad's book, The Myth of the Eternal Return, a few episodes ago. About the cyclical cleansing rituals that are still with us in a sense. Like we have rituals to begin the new year that has this cleansing effect, almost this orgiastic, explosion of new beginnings that we still have culturally. We actually have dragged a lot of our old pagan European folkways into a Christian framework. That's what's interesting about especially Christianity in America. So again, that's I don't even accept. I don't say that sounds hostile. Like I'm not certain. It's not obvious to me that we have lost all of our cyclical rebirth rituals. However, here's interesting. Again, this is why I can't get too deep into it, because within Christianity we have a linear time, and we have certain events that are just happen once and are not cyclical, as opposed to other trilogies where death and rebirth of the gods happens. The death and resurrection of Christ was a one-time thing. It happened at this specific date. It won't happen again. We have this conceptualization of linear time in Christianity, which means that there's a beginning, middle, and final end. Now, of course, the Vikings had this as well with Ragnarok. So it's not like there is no such thing as linear time in pagan cultures. However, that's the framework we live in right now. However, what's interesting is the more you get into like quantum mechanics and stuff like that, the more you start hearing recurring themes of cycles, like even within the life and death of the universe. Because there is this, within the Big Bang Theory, there's this idea that the universe has beginning, middle, and end. But now we're exploring ideas where maybe the universe kind of bounces back into this perpetual growing and shrinking and growing and shrinking. Now, again, won't get too deep into that. However, I'm trying to figure out which way I tilt. Like, am I more on the side of linear time or cyclical time? I don't know. How does that affect the civilization? I think linear time I think linear time affects a civilization more because there's higher stakes. There's a conceptualization we have, like there could be an endpoint that we want to avoid. Like maybe if we fall, we won't automatically rise. And that's what I guess maybe he's referring to earlier when we were talking about the historical cycle about, hard times create strong men, and then it repeats again and again and again. I think the idea of a finality to that cycle makes the present stakes more urgent, because what I don't want to do is fall. And this is why I don't like the Kali Yuga stuff, where it's like, oh, it's like it's bad now, but it's destined to get better. Maybe it's not destined to get better. Maybe it's not destined to just repeat, and we're bound to hit a good phase eventually. Maybe we're not. Maybe it gets worse forever and it just ends.
See,
I think building a civilization around that might be better. Now,
I thought, because you're talking about cyclical versus linear time. Remember we talked about that recently. I thought teleology was like the way in which people view or study their own knowledge or their own history or their own like the understanding of understanding. Isn't that kind of the idea of teleology? So if you had cyclical teleology, you'd be a culture that constantly is looking inward at itself, at its own thinking, at its own understanding, and almost like masturbating over itself. And then a linear teleology would almost be Faustian, one that goes forward and says, what else can we become? What else is there? What does someone else do? What is in the future? What is over the mountain? That would be more, I'm just fucking spitballing, but to me, that would be a linear teleology, because we were talking about George Lincoln Rockwell and NJP, which is, if that is what it is, then we're talking about a cyclical teleology. Say, we are here today, but the only way we can move forward is by moving backwards in a circle and rehashing infinitely everything that's already happened and studying it and writing books and writing Twitter posts about Substacks, about reviews, about books, about an interview that I saw, versus let's make something.
And also recall, people might have witnessed this in popular culture when they see political pundits talk about the pendulum swing, like things swung too far left, so it's bound to swing far right now. And so there's a lot of people who think that, okay, this woke thing is being put away, go back to hard right stuff. Not necessarily. You could have shifted the Overton window so far that a rightward shift can lead you just right back to liberalism. That's in fact what happens in Canada. Our conservatives are like American Democrats. So a rightward shift isn't a far right shift. It's just we swung so far left that the pendulum swing back is like still relatively left. So this idea of like, oh, we always just go back and forth and back and forth. No. You can go too far, and then it's 2 steps this direction, then 1 step back.
Yep.
So it's not just a cycle that a lot of the political people believe, like, oh, it's the conservatives' time now. Well, the conservatives are all Mexican Democrats right now. The conservative, yes, sir.
By 2050, you and I may be radical left-wingers.
Yeah, exactly. It's like back in my day, we just said men could be just women. That was the good old days. Like that's the whole joke. So just to go back to this post, what would a white nationalist want? Who wants to lead the masses? The 14 words, basically. You can debate on how to get there, but it's pretty self-evident. You can't go in Talmudical arguments about what are white children even. I agree completely. Be immediately hostile to those questions. The average man is not modern either. Ideologies are basically modernist thinking. Do these things and you'll get your utopia. Fail to do them and you'll somehow regress in history. What the masses want is ultimately the same now as were the same 1,000 years ago. It's simply perennial, biological even. I do believe that people that aren't hostile to ideologies, but it's too highfalutin for them. And there's a lot of people on our side that are very pro ideology. There's this point that was, what was it? It might have been Hans Morgenthau who said that it's interesting that the Western world, it's birthed ideologies, but it's never birthed a religion. Ideologies are, in a sense, our form of religion, but it's a religion born of the scientific revolution. It's a
Well, I mean, you
types
have
of religious.
Scientologists and Mormons and Seventh Days, but I
Yeah,
mean,
but
not
even Marxism and fascism, these are they function almost like faiths, but they are fundamentally systemic. They're trying to say, how can we arrange society to achieve utopia?
yeah.
And then that book, Seeing Like a State, would take that to task by saying that you're destined to view humanity in too low a resolution. I actually really need to use the washroom. Can you just do this for a second?
I'm gonna hold the fort. Hey,
Okay.
fellas, we're gonna look at some chat. Matt Lee says we have no idea what Rockwell would have done in the 70s because he got assassinated, and that is true. And I'm not going to pretend that I knew that because I didn't, because I don't read. But yeah, I mean, I hear stuff all the time. I get all this shit secondhand just from talking to the guys, and I've watched a bunch of speeches from Rockwell. Cool guy. I actually like the way he talks. The corncob pipe and the whole bit. I like it. I like a lot of stuff he was saying. Obviously, with what we've said here, kind of disagree with his meta about using the literal Nazi flag from our opponents during the war. Whether it was a good opponent or not is not relevant. It's like you're not going to fight trillions of dollars in 20 years of propaganda. That's kind of silly. But really cool dude. And my personal belief is if he had lived, probably would have probably would have been a huge beneficial resource to us today if he were still alive. So big shame. RIP. Press F to pay respects to GLR. What a dude. What else have we got? Christmas could suck, but you could still have that feeling, and I believe that's your ancestors. If what you're saying is current Christmases are gay and capitalized, but there's something inside you that you don't understand that says this is important. I think so. I think it's epigenetics. I joke about morphic resonance all the time. I don't think morphic resonance is real, but there's got to be something like that, like instinct or blood memory or something. Because I lived in Asia for 10 years and I felt like a fucking magnet when I would see my own people or I would talk to my family on the phone and I felt drawn. And I'm so glad to be back now because it's like, I don't know, if people haven't done that, like it really is, there is a synergy when you're around your own people, your own culture, your own family, even just the distance, you just feel more comfortable. And the holidays and the cultural norms and the rituals that we do, dude, man, fucking taking out the garbage in a suburban home is a Western ritual. Most countries don't even have garbage. Like I feel so civilized, even if I'm wearing my house coat, to just take the garbage to the end of the street. It's such a correct. I'm always right, dude.
Back, baby. I was just reminded of a story as I heard you talking about that there are these Westerners, probably white people, who are telling stories about living around Haitians, and that when they would leave their garbage out during garbage night, that the Haitians would just go through their garbage, rip it open, spread garbage everywhere.
There you go.
And he couldn't find a way to make them stop. He'd go out screaming
Did he
at
try
them.
a gun?
He would like set traps for them. He's like, they wouldn't stop.
There's like a giant live trap, like an 8-foot tall cage that they step in to get a banana.
Yeah, like they couldn't fucking stop them from doing it. Like you would have to kill them to stop them, but they didn't understand that you don't go through garbage.
Yeah.
And to civilize them to that point, you would need to like rebuild them.
Yeah.
So I guess we're getting to the end here. I think we've basically what I wanted to achieve at this point was to give an appraisal of not just the NJP, but also what I believe to be the alt-right, which was embodied in many ways within the NJP. And let me see if I can get this going here. Let me see. Okay, so window. Let me know if you could hear this.
No audio.
No audio? Okay. How do I do this? There's a way to do this.
Are you on OBS? You can switch the audio to
No. Sharing. Oh, wait. Share. Okay, I need to share the entire screen. Okay, hold up. Let me just do this. Share the audio. Settings. Let me just. So share the entire screen here. Share system audio. Okay. So this should work. Let's see.
Moving from being a shock jock.
Can you hear that?
Yes.
Okay.
But I can also hear myself.
Okay. So
Moving from being a shock jock to you're going to vote for me for president, at least conceivably. Not sure about that. I think the other thing is that you can't be a populist without being popular. And the popularity of like an alt-right podcast is very limited. Whereas with Trump, all of those things, like Trump went on World Wrestling and Trump fired people on The Apprentice, and Trump was, I remember when I was a kid in the 80s, when my mother would take me to the grocery store, there'd be like People, these are American magazines, like People, Us Weekly, the National Enquirer, whatever, they're all up there. And it would just be like Trump, Mar.
Of course, he's going for Vogue.
National Enquirer, whatever, they're all up there. And it would just be like Trump, Marla Maples, Trump, Ivanka, Trump bankrupt. He was just like part of my life in some kind of crazy way. The best sex I ever had, that headline from the New York Post.
Why does he have to sound like this? Like he's making a good point, and then he just says, I don't know, just weird. But anyway, I like that quote from him. I think
That's absolutely right.
To be a populist, you need to be popular. That might sound pithy. That might sound like a reductive point. I don't think it is. I think we haven't really asked ourselves, like, let's look at the spread of people we got. How many of these are like who have the capacity to be popular? Or are they just weirdos? Like every single person at NJP looked like a fucking weirdo. Warren Balog was the most normal one of all of them, and he just kept getting clowned for not being interesting enough. Well, maybe if he had the right fucking, speechwriter, maybe you could put him in front of a podium. But all the quote unquote interesting people were Eric Stryker, who looks like a fucking like a PS1 graphic level 1 enemy. The way he like walks and struts around, he's like a tutorial enemy you learn how to use a pistol on in the game. And all these guys, they're all fucking weirdos. And I'm not saying that just to be mean, but I'm saying like really though. Really, like even Emily Eustace, like she looks normal. There's not a lot of normal looking people.
Well,
And are we popular, or do people just sort of not like a lot of our guys? Like Nick Fuentes. When you see Nick Fuentes in front of his green screen, he can be funny, he can make jokes, and he can make fun of his audience. But then you see a video of him at a mall and he's wearing a Fortnite hoodie and girls are like laughing at him. That's what it is. That's the real world. The real world doesn't seem to mesh well once our guys get off of camera and stuff. Like, well, we got to do something about that. Like, if we're not popular, you can't be populist. And maybe you don't want to be populist, but I just think we got to get back to like, are you good with people? Are you good with people? Do you have a lot of friends? Are you cool? Or do you have all these? Do you have a history of like weird fights and all these skeletons in your closet? I don't know. That just seems like endemic to our scene. And maybe all the regular people got chased out and all of the fucking sociopath. And this is what we're talking about with Wilfred Bion in that book, Experiences and Groups, that basic assumption groups have a tendency to elect the most schizophrenic or mentally ill as their leaders, because those people also tend to be the strongest adherents to whatever the weird belief systems are. Like we tend to select for extreme personalities. And I don't think we know how to select for, you know, cool, skilled people. You know, maybe that sounds too harsh. Like, I don't know. Like,
The other thing, like I was saying earlier, can you? Oh man, I don't know if everybody's turning the echo here and echo. But anyways, if you have people and they're successful, leadership-oriented people, and you want them to be involved in an organization which is high risk, these people have a lot to lose. They're not going to. You know, if you have an organization that has a destructive, negative focus, and the only thing that you're possibly going to get out of it is arrested and doxxed, then the only people you're going to get involved are people who have nothing to lose. And there's a big crossover with people who have nothing to lose and people who have no skills, no redeemable talents or qualities. If you want people with lots of talents and qualities and friends and they're good leaders, and you're not gonna find those people by saying throw everything away for us for the opportunity to be doxxed on national television. You need to give them something. So
yeah. And also maybe the problem, and I don't know how to solve this, so I'm not coming with all the answers, but I'm hoping at least we can trigger some discussion for the next thing that we all work on. But it's like a big problem we have is maybe we're so in love with a distant identity that we sort rank for people who just want to die, who are kind of antisocial.
you mean to get rid of them or what?
No, they just want themselves to die. Like they like our leaders are gonna be the ones who like want to get into fights and want to be persecuted. Like the problem with, and this is what I think the next step is, and maybe this is 2024. And again, big problem, big question. It's like, stop using the term dissident. You can't be dissident anymore because that's just reactionary. Even alternative, like once you call yourself alternative, you're dooming yourself to the margins. Like you have to identify yourself as something more substantive. Like if you're a white nationalist, that says it all right there. But this movement, if we want to get a direction, the direction can't be from a starting point of we're always going to be outsiders. If we call ourselves dissidents, it seems like we're condemning ourselves to always be outsiders. And that is evidenced, I think, by the NJP and America First not sure what to do once our ideas go mainstream. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
I got another thing here. Let's see. Let me know if you can.
For people listening that are
can you hear that?
Yes.
Might have to turn it up a bit louder here.
For people listening that are upset that some criticism, some shade perhaps has been thrown at the working class white community or the Trump supporting white community in America, we have to throw shade at absolutely everybody.
Because everybody sucks.
Because what we need to do is build our movement out of people that are not hidebound to any previously existing group. Like, we can't be like, no, let's always be hoping that these working class white Trump supporters are going to come into our thing. Some of them might. We've got some guys that have come in, but let's not assume that conservatism or white conservatives are necessarily the most fertile ground for where we need to find people. Some of our best people have come in from the left.
Literally. The best.
The best. That's Sven probably referring to Eric Stryker.
Which is hilarious because Eric Stryker,
that's Sven probably referring to Tony Hovater, the guys he hates now and always hated, according to him.
Yeah.
Oh, Sven, the best of us came from the left. That's interesting. Read a bunch of his posts now and saying everything wrong with TRS came from these former leftists.
I agree with what Mike is saying. I agree with what Mike is saying. It's just the take is like, oh, we got these great leftists. Like, oh, we got these great leftists. How about you get management experience? How about you get some people with management experience, organizational experience? How about you get some people who run a NGO, right-wing NGO, that are in their 50s and are ready to retire? That's who you need.
I've just got a quote here, a message. The KF poster who used the phrase "warm place to shit" was paraphrasing Earl Butts. These last names, man, I'm telling you, this is a bad day for last name havers. Oh, Echo's boy. Okay, so I see what's happening here. If the echoes are gone now, then that means that me playing the desktop audio was causing an
Woes
echo.
came in just to tell us that the echo was bad.
Millennial Woes came in. I know why he came in because I was playing his content and giving him a kind word. He's here to fucking strike me back. I got my eye out. Look at it. I'm putting you on blast. We love Millennial Woes. He had us on. Can you believe it? He had us on Millennial. One of the best. The year Canadians took over, if you remember that.
What a night.
That was like the one year where like Kino Casino was on. What a funny. And then he said never again.
That's fine. He's too busy.
I let too many of these fucking Canucks in.
Not only should you not invite us back, you should not invite most people back. You should pare it down to. We should all do that. That's not at Woes. That's at all of us. We should probably. We all need to focus on practical efforts in the new year.
Let me say this. Another cruel comment here from the following thunder. Yeah, Judas sounds
fucking
good
right.
now.
I do.
No dimes. Nothing about me. All right. This is what happens when you share desktop. We haven't figured out the technology yet. And let me just make this. Like I've been thinking about this a lot recently. Because I'm so used to dismissing the conservatives, and conservatives make me mad, right? And all the criticisms are still valid, but I get dinged by people for saying that. You know what? I think we could work with QAnon. I look at QAnon and I see lost souls. Like I said before, I look at QAnon and I see people whose paradigm was shattered, and now they're going into the weeds on weird stuff. But they're looking for a home. They don't know where to go, so it's all like conspiracy theory shit. But like there's something in conservatism where at least they have a grasp on something like first principles. Like I think if you parse through, if you kind of look behind the curtain of a lot of the propaganda, because here's the thing. We talked about this earlier. We talked about propaganda. I said this before. The definition of propaganda that I prefer was the one put forward by Jacques Ellul, a leftist. Ooh. However, I like that more than the Edward Bernays description of propaganda. A propagandized individual is someone who has been so hammered with messaging that they have a Pavlovian response to something that even goes against their own beliefs. For example, I'll give you an example of Catholics. Let's say you're a Catholic. You're no friend to homosexuality. However, even so propagandized by society, if you are in church and there's mention of homosexuality being bad, you shudder. A pall goes over the room. I've been in this situation. Anytime you've heard someone say the phrase, you're not supposed to say that. As a propagandized individual, this belief sits above faith. It sits above values. It sits above common sense. You just have this thing that's been implanted in you where you feel cautious. You want to strike someone down for saying the wrong thing. That is what a propagandized individual is. So conservatives, in a lot of ways, have been so. I'll tell you what. You want to know something funny? I know Mike Enoch actually had this really funny clip. I remember this like it was yesterday. He was making fun of conservatives who want to complain about black people and want to say the N-word, but they can't. but they it's dog with it. You have all these fucking idiots. You have all these morons. Like you're just grasping for something, like a word other than what you want to say, which is a slur. And everyone knows, but it's there. And here's a fun experiment. I love doing this. I love getting a conservative to a space where they feel like they can uncork, but it stand back, because it's like being at SeaWorld. If they get the sense that they're allowed to be a little bit truthful about their race realism, they'll just gush too much to you. It's dangerous. Stand back. But like there's something there. Like I don't want to give up on conservatives. A lot of people do. And I think I would be more interested in them than a lot of the leftists and a lot of anarchists. And I have a lot of anarchist friends, and we've covered anarchist literature very, very friendly. I think there's too much baggage that comes along with that. And I think we've seen the baggage that a lot of leftists bring, and that baggage is the fucking
one for
NJP.
you. Both of my parents are boomers and conservatives, but my dad has always been the one that's quite anti-government and anti-everything. And he's kind of, he doesn't even like Israel. He's kind of been on the ball, right? My mom is the one that always holds the fort for the government and toes the line and all of this shit. But my mom is rural. And just in the past year, I've been talking to her about the immigration and race problem that we have locally, and she's been fucking agreeing with me. I keep pushing her buttons, and it's got to the point that even my libtard brother walks out of the room and gets frustrated from hearing it. But my own boomer mum is like, you know what? We do have a problem with these fucking Indians. So it's amazing. Like I am shocked, to be honest. But like these people are not beyond saving. You just stop treating them like they're less than us. Especially in the case of boomers. Like whether you like them or not, they've been around a lot longer than you. Okay, they've seen some shit.
Yeah, and it wasn't that long ago when everyone was in line on these topics. And remember, like I always come back to this. Now, I've had some criticisms of academic agent before, but there was there's something he had his hands wrapped around, which was this idea of sensible centrism. Now, I think that was a bit of a movement that doesn't have a lot of teeth on it, but within that is the admission that nothing that we're saying is insane. It's not even that radical. There is like a common sense confidence you can't enact. Some people made a comment here. It's like, oh yeah, go try and talk to them about, the 6 million. I'm like, I mean, you can start talking about the book Night by Eli Wiesel. Like literally just have them read that book and say, this won the Nobel Prize. Everyone thought this was real. And it's like, wow, there's a lot of like weird mystical nonsense that happens in this book. Like I don't want to go off on this too much, but just show them a fucking Devin Stack stream. Go show him Black Pilled.
Yep.
He's got some funny shit. You can get all your fucking parents watching Devin Stack, I bet.
Yeah, probably.
Ain't that hard. It's better than CNN. It's better than what's a big thing now with Morning Joe. You can get your parents watching Devin Stack instead of Morning Joe in an afternoon. All they got to here's how you hack your parents. Figure out how to get internet on the TV. You can just figure out how to put YouTube on their TV because their TV race. Props to Borzoi for coming up with TV race. But anything on the TV they believe, just figure out how to put your shit on the TV, and you're in like Flynn.
That's right.
And I do think, just back to the point we were talking about before about whether or not there's a historical cycle or a pendulum swing. I do see a decline in the current generations. With Zoomers and Gen Alpha. I do think the situation is getting dire. I think there's all kinds of pressures impacting young people today, not just ideological. In case you forgot, there's plastic in your blood. In case you forgot, like don't forget the COVID stuff. Don't forget the general overpopulation of Earth problem. Then there's the mass migration. There's a lot of shit going on. The average IQ, even among whites, seems to be dropping. Like there's big problems, and I do think a real decline could be happening that we can't get out of. So I do think time is of the essence, and this is where Edward Dutton would come in. There's dysgenic pressures. And the problem with dysgenic pressures is they can take generations to unravel, if you ever get out of it. Like we're talking about long lasting, ideology aside, sperm counts are dropping. What are we doing about that? All things aside, testosterone is dropping. What do we do about that? I guess we're taking testosterone injections forever, but it's easy to get overwhelmed by this stuff. But I do think once you take in the scope of all the issues impacting us, I think it's a bit easier to come up with targeted solutions other than hoping for the great Satan to collapse, which would end up with you trading your kids for wine, which you don't want. Oh, let me just see a couple of comments here. Conservatives are retarded on economics, though. True. Everything's communism to them. Old school liberals you can talk to about workers' rights, unions, overseas manufacturing. True.
No,
I'm not saying don't talk to liberals either.
I think to me it's about. I was kind of talking about boomers. Like my point is, I should say my mom is a high school teacher, so it's funny because she's a Christian, so she's fundamentally conservative. But aside from the fact that she votes conservative, everything about her socially is liberal. She believes all of this shit up until recently about diversity and everything else. But as you say, some of these people weren't raised with the diversity, and so when they see this stuff, it really shocks them. But likewise, I think boomers who were raised liberal in the 1960s, 70s, 80s type of way are receptive to this. They're the sort of people that are receptive to saying, look, let's just go with meritocracy. Why don't we? Isn't it unfair the way that whites are thrown under the bus at every opportunity? They're on board with that, right? You can talk to them about that shit. So, yeah,
I think now more than ever, it's hard to get some generations. Like it is hard to talk to boomers because I think most of them are at a point where they can't take in new information. Like it's very difficult to teach a boomer new stuff, especially
right,
now.
but you
know
don't
what I mean?
always need to. You need to figure out what, because the thing is, the flip side, the corollary of them not being able to take on new stuff is they're chock full of stuff. You need to figure out what stuff they've got that fits in, and then you can grab that like a puzzle piece, and you can make that work.
You know what's funny? There's going to be a video that goes up on our paywall show, or Real Secret Coffee Hours, where I review a Jordan Peterson article. And he's introducing a new phrase. I don't know if people have caught on to this, called meta Marxism. First, it was neo Marxism.
Yeah.
Now it's just like another.
He's rebranding.
Someone had made a point here about everything's Marxism, everything's communism. Yeah, it's true. Like they're creating a more complicated and fragile system to explain away the truths that everyone knows. There's this great joke about NRX, the neo-reactionary movement, NRX with Moldbug and stuff. And the joke is that NRX stands for no, really, X is the problem and not Jews. And for them, it was like, what they mean is like the international Anglo establishment, or it's like woke Protestants. Like that's Moldbug's thing. His thing is like Protestantism is the real villain.
They were an autistic vanguard that allowed us to do a lot of the things that we're doing right now, but they're dead. It's over. It's so over.
Yeah, meta Marxism. But there is like, I think there's a lot of stuff on the table right now ideologically that we're going to end up sweeping away. I think people are just coming back to the basics, or coming back to the first principles. Like, okay, do white people exist? Are they allowed to complain about what's happening? And I think even white liberals, we talked about this before, and this was circling back to the Bronze Age pervert post that I took exception to, his claim that liberals and elites and decent people don't care about race realist stuff. I'm like, well, there's the revealed preference, and this is something the alt-right called out to great effect, but didn't lead anywhere. But it showed that white liberals, they talk about progressivism and loving black people. They don't live around black people. They don't want their kids going to black schools. When it comes down to it, and they do this, these things with like Fleckus talks or whatever. It's like, oh, you're pro-refugee. Would you let a refugee stay with you? And then we watch them go, oh, no, but I have a cat, whatever it is.
Right.
But the revealed preferences, they don't actually like this. And I'm like, what we want to tap into is that.
Right.
There's something deep there where it's like, you don't like this. You're scared. It's gross. Same thing with LGBT stuff. I'm like, it's gross. You think it's gross. You think trans stuff is weird. Now, what can I do with that, that fire in you that after all this still hasn't gone out? It's just been wallpapered over again and again and again with all this new stuff, all this propaganda that has these, like, they're just a Pavlov's dog of all these pressures and punishments they're scared of. But
and it's
inside of you, you get that this is fucking weird, right?
There's so many people now compared to even a year or two ago who are primed to receive this information and to be turned onto our side. And at the same time, he's correct that the stakes are much higher because the opposition is pushing back against this in a way that is destroying people's lives all over the place. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. That just means you're risking more for a higher gain. And, as a Jew, obviously he's going to be against that because he doesn't like risking things and he doesn't like working for principle. He just wants to find the easy way out. So it does make sense that BAP as a Jew would be saying this. But yeah, as for the rest of us that actually want a real solution to an actual problem that we genuinely care about because we're humans and we care about things. Yeah, you do actually need to talk about race. It's one of the only things that matters. And people are literally, for the first time in a long time, more than ever, are ready to actually talk about this.
Yeah. And also, and this is, maybe we'll end on this. And this is, I'm circle back to that first claim I made, that I think the NJP and a lot of the people who are in it, if you take account of what they've said and the comments they made on white people, on the working class and the lower class and blue collar people, people who are against the COVID vaccine, there's more anti-white shit coming from them than pro-white. And I really do think that you need to like white people. It sounds simple. It might sound silly to say it out loud, but I'm like, when I look at QAnon people, I see a bunch of like white, multi-level marketing women, but they're family people, they're kind of goofy. They're the Margaritaville people, they're in there, but I'm like, I would take them over Jagmeet Singh. I would take them over. Who's the fucking guy? Who's the guy in the UK, their prime minister, who's like so anti-Indian immigration now, and he's supposed to be so based. Whatever his name is, there's all these Indian people.
Vivek.
Vivek, who are like anti-Indian immigration. We're supposed to say based. I'm like, I don't buy it. There's there's some kind of caste system chess that's going on here that we haven't updated our software to detect, and people are too excited about. What I'm saying is, I would take white people at their stupidest and their worst over the most based Indian guy. I have a real affection for like everyone hating Oliver Anthony. Like, fuck that guy. Fuck Oliver Anthony is working class song. I'm like, he's just like a kid playing a fucking steel guitar, and
give him a break.
Like, I don't hate that guy. You're not going to make
80% on our side, and you're going to counter signal him while sucking Vivek's dick. Vivek is literally the enemy. Vivek is a fucking invader. It doesn't matter what he says. Again, the thing that drives me nuts about Vivek is that if you try to identify the number one reason why we all hate Indians, it's because they will say anything to get into your fucking wallet. They will be your buddy. My very good big dick friend, please listen one moment. I will help you with the discount. That's what he's fucking doing. That, like, his whole campaign is top to bottom focus grouped right-wing populist. Why? Because he believes it? No, Indians don't believe anything, man. They're a fucking purpose-bred sales force.
If you've ever worked in a company, like, people are calling out right now, like, this is how you get the Indian CEO, and your entire look away, then look back, your entire company is full of Indians, and it sucks now.
Yeah.
But the NJP, and I'm using them as an example, there's other people who do this. The NJP will say, fuck Oliver Anthony, fuck this white Virginian, and we must praise the Palestinians as the real whites. Like, you need to be cautious of these people. They're fucking everywhere. You need to I think you need to like white people. I just think you do. You got to like them even when they're fucking stupid. You got like the Margaritaville people. You got like them more than the fucking Iranian who hates Jews a bit more than you do.
You also got, like you were saying earlier, that they like the leftists because it like adds an air of sophistication, and you like they're now the intelligentsia or something, right? My thing is, you got to stop being smart sometimes. And this is kind of, I think, the core of originary conservatism that was actually valuable, is to conserve something. You can't keep questioning what it's for, because you are never going to be intelligent or as intelligent as the 1,000 years of your ancestors that built this fucking black box of culture or religion or family, right? You can't keep getting smart and being like, well, we don't really need this, right? So like, when you look at him and you think you know better, don't look at Anthony and say that you know better. All you know is he's a white guy, working class, plays a guitar in your culture, and he's mad because he's been taken advantage of. Just fucking shut up, take that for what it is, and back the motherfucker. Back him up. And again, with Palestine, Palestinians hate the Jews. Okay, so back them in the war against Israel. But aside from that, you have literally nothing in common with them, and historically, they've done nothing but try to destroy you as a white Christian civilization. They are more, actually, Muslims are more our existential enemies than the Jews are. And people have forgotten that recently. But again, quit trying to be fucking smart. Stop being smart. Just admit, like, take it for what it is and just conserve. And I don't mean as a conservative, but like, you know what I mean by conserve, right? Stop trying to go in a new direction with it and just act as a wall, as a group, as a block, and conserve what we have. I don't know.
Well, people are asking what's wrong with Oliver Anthony. I'll answer the question.
Nothing.
He took a photo with Bert Kreischer, who
fine. One thing.
Yeah, no, but for me, like,
I hate
if I drop white phosphorus on Bert Kreischer, which I will do one day,
Yeah.
and Oliver Anthony might catch a nasty case of death. Because
I think
of that,
Anthony
but-
also went on mainstream media and he was talking about like how diversity is our strength and he's not a right winger and which I don't even necessarily believe that he believes that. And even if he does believe that, it just means he's a left winger. It doesn't change the fact that he's a white working class musician who's angry about being taken advantage of. It doesn't change that, right? It just means he's a fucking left winger.
By the way,
So
this is Bert
even if he's a
Kreischer
left
on
winger, I'm
screen.
behind him.
On screen right now is Bert Kreischer.
A fat, disgusting Jew.
I don't think he's Jewish.
Kreischer?
Kreischer, yeah. I think he's just a fat. He's like a party guy.
He's an honorary Jew.
Sure, I guess. I mean, like, I could go on for 3 more hours about everything.
But we cannot.
You got me thinking now. You got me spiraling. I've been thinking about
I
all
gotta
the
go to
things-
bed. My bedtime is 11 o'clock. I gotta get up at 5.
It's true. Okay, we gotta get going. Any
We gotta wrap it up. We gotta make our conclusions here because the point was to deconstruct or to debrief what's gone on with NJP. What can we learn?
Well, I kind of already explained. So, just to reiterate that point, in case it was lost, what we learned at the NJP was they took a 20th century approach driven by ego, driven by narcissism, to muscle and corral a 21st century organization that was primed for success and growth, and tried to muscle it into this static thing that eventually destroyed it. And it revealed in the process that those who remain, I believe, are outwardly hostile to great swathes of white people from various classes, and they've only gotten more dark and twisted and degenerate, and what remains is a laughable shell. And that there's individuals who truly believed in the NJP, and I think there is a pathway forward to them. I don't want them to become entwined with cynicism and self-loathing and believe that all is lost. There, you don't lose marks for giving it a shot. Maybe you sacrificed a lot.
Right.
Maybe you put a lot on the line for this one group. I don't want you to lose that fire. There's other groups out there. I think there's something we can learn from the NJP, which is don't try and follow that model. Be very wary of the personalities. Be very aware of the personalities that you think are interesting because they might not be the most capable. And be wary of those who, I don't know, have more, not just mainstream media literacy, but have more literacy with right-wing talking points, because you can start to see the slithering encroachment of leftist thought that leads you down really, really strange pathways. I think that moving forward, sort of decentralized networks are the way to go. And I think we need to negotiate that amongst ourselves. I think individuals need to start really asking what their self-interests are. I would encourage everyone to actually sit down and think about it, write down on a piece of paper what you believe in a positivistic way. What would you want to make 2 columns? What do you actually believe in fully, as simply as you can? This should not be a 20-page thing. You should be able to very simply say what you believe in and think of 6 things that you could do politically that would make the country better to your interest, because then you will establish your interests, you will establish then missions. Then you can take those 2 columns and align those with other like-minded people. And maybe the first column is Christianity, maybe it has paganism, maybe it has atheism, maybe you are a technocrat, maybe whatever. Maybe you are like a diehard First Amendment American, like you're the American race, right? And maybe you're European, whatever it might be. Maybe you're an Apollonian. Maybe you're a fucking Mark Brumman, Richard Spencer type guy. But once you have it down, then you can use that to connect to other people and actually build these tribes, because ethnicity won't be the only thing. That will be the larger umbrella we can operate under. But when it comes to creating kin networks and building real relationships with real people, that's going to be the next step. And so having that list in mind, but also getting out and meeting these people in the real world. The next step, and we've said this on this show before, I'm sorry if I'm rambling, but realize that the online space will become more and more hostile towards us.
Yeah.
So Ironically, the safest place for us is going to be in the real world, in spaces we control, interfacing one-on-one with each other and building actual relationships with people and building organizations that way. Because there will be a point in the future where we're not going to be able to be certain that the people we're talking to are even real people. They're going to find new ways to pacify radical movements, and it's going to be through increasingly sophisticated bots. Probably there's going to think of the myriad of new ways that these movements can be pacified online. I just think we need to find something that's not online, and we're just rubbing two sticks together here, but that doesn't interest me or excite me anymore.
Well, you know what? That was my takeaway from a practical standpoint. You had mentioned there was an organic ecosystem that they had created. They had NJP as a party at the top. They had the media system with the TRS and Daily Show and all these programs. Down from that, they had the pool parties where people regionally could meet up, and then they had local groups like the Mannerbuns. And at some point, they tried to turn it, and they tried to capture the real meat and potatoes, the real value, which was the Mannerbuns and the pool parties. It was the direct connection, the mutual aid and assistance and relationships of real fucking people, neighbors, brothers in America. Those people got turned against each other and got poisoned. You know, they became bitter after what happened. That was, to me, the turning point. That was the break in this system. Aside from that, overall, it wasn't even a huge mistake the way that they had it set up. The big problem was the people. Those guys are fucking assholes, the admin guys. And the way that they sacrificed, essentially, destroyed the goodwill and the army of followers that they'd built up. But those guys are great guys. And the fact that they had built essentially a national network of brotherhood is just, I mean, it brings a fucking tear to my eye to see that happen. I wish that we could do the same thing in Canada. I hope that we are able to do it soon. And I'm honestly, I wouldn't change that much of it, aside from, as you said, now I'm rambling, it needs to be decentralized. If you get into a Mannerbund, if you get into a pool party, don't ever let somebody at the national level, or especially at the global level, come in and say you need to pay them fucking dues. You don't. If you've already got a regional meetup and you've got a weekly local meetup with your brothers, you're there, man. You're done. The next step isn't join a national party. The next step is buy a van so that you can go deliver
the
food.
next step.
Like
I've heard Sven and some others say that we're going to get the pool parties going again. Don't fucking let him.
Go start your own pool party. This is the great thing. The NJP guys, I wouldn't even say to them, oh, come join us, follow Blood Satellite. Don't. You're all fucking Americans. We're not even American. What you should do, if you're already in a pool party, remember the names and faces of those guys. Go and find them, because you were the guys all along. You were the power. You were the important element in this unit from the very beginning, and you are the only thing that's going to carry America forward. So go back and find those guys and reorganize on your own. I guarantee you, the average fucking working class guy at a pool party or a Mannerbund is 10 times more intelligent and organized than Sven. And you know how I know? Because you hold a fucking job down.
Yeah, exactly. You weren't working. I have seen no conclusive evidence that Sven even knows how to effectively work at a paint store. That's just taken on hearsay. But also, like, you made a good point there. It's like, this was an experiment. Yeah. NJP was an experiment. You had what you had said, which is good people in a kinship network. And then for a brief moment, we ran the experiment of what happens if we put these people in charge. What they did, they raped it to death. So keep that in mind. Never let these people rape it to death again. Never let these motherfuckers get anywhere near anything you were doing. These guys specifically, Mike, Sven, fucking who else? Like Tony, like all these. Don't, if they're going to go away and they're going to come back and try it again. Don't fucking let them. This was it. This was your shot. Fuck you forever. If you're paying these people money, I implore you to stop. I implore you. There's so many other ways, things you could spend your money on. Don't even spend it on us. Here's an idea. Don't spend it on content whatsoever.
Yeah.
Spend it on socks. Spend it on fucking literally anything. Spend it on NPR.
Get together with your buddies and buy a piece of undeveloped land for $8,000 and build a hunting lodge and go and teach yourself how to hunt coyotes every weekend. Go do that.
Yeah. Buy candy. Buy fucking, I don't know. Fucking get into crypto. Literally do anything other than this. This is a tumor. You're giving a tumor packs of cigarettes. You wouldn't give a tumor. You wouldn't download a tumor smoking cigarettes, would you?
Yeah.
You wouldn't download a cigarette smoking tumor, would you? Yeah, buy a turkey dinner for your friends. Go to Swiss Chalet, order everyone a quarter chicken dinner. Boom, you save the white race. You know what you didn't do? Buy Sven another fucking flying V guitar. That
Another
Gen X
$4,000 guitar. Yeah.
Buying guitars is worse than buying sneakers. Like, let's be like, imagine a guy who just bought tools and bought
Am I
five
crazy?
of the same drill.
Can you not go in like fly over, like Montana or wherever for $4,000 for the cost of his guitar? Could you not get like 2 acres of undeveloped land with like a dirt road access? I bet you could.
Yeah.
I know you can do it here for 20 grand. So in the States, you got to be able to do it for 4 or 5 grand, I bet. So
yeah, exactly. All right, so we gotta get going now.
yes, we do. It's been good. This is, you know what? I think this is our best stream ever.
I think so too.
I think so.
All right.
Good.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. I will
Fellas.
good stream. We'll talk to you all later.
Good stream. Good night. See you.